Douluo, after listening to the advice, I became a god. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226, Wind and Cloud. The reason why he didn't jump into the water immediately after taking the two immortal herbs was to wait for the effect of the medicine. Otherwise, if he fell into the water a little earlier, he would be dead. At this time, after the effect of the medicine took effect, he entered the water again, but he didn't feel much, because the feeling brought by the 8 tangled black ice grass and the flaming apricot had made all his perceptions of the outside world disappear instantly. Yun Feng's decision to choose these two herbs was naturally after careful consideration. These two immortal herbs are not of the best quality around the yin-yang eye of ice and fire. They can only be regarded as very ordinary. If you eat one alone, even if you are next to it, you will immediately fall into extreme danger. However, ice and fire counteract each other. When the two herbs are gathered together, the neutralization effect just now will appear. This is also the only opportunity to take the two herbs. Of course, the ice and fire properties of the two herbs did not disappear because of this. After taking them, Yun Feng still has to endure the strong baptism of ice and fire. Once the body can't support it, it will explode and die immediately. The most important reason for choosing to take them is because of the yin-yang eye of ice and fire in front of him. Because, according to the records in Xuanshan Baolu in the original book, if you want to enter the yin-yang eye of ice and fire, then taking the 8 tangled mysterious ice grass and the fiery apricot at the same time is the only chance. These two herbs are born with the breath of the two extreme springs of the yin-yang eye of ice and fire. Only they can restrain the terrifying power of the two springs. Yun Feng seemed to be in extreme crisis at this time, but in fact, with the effect of the yin-yang eye of ice and fire, the two highly toxic herbs he took would have a strong promoting effect on Yun Feng, promoting his absorption of them, convert its ice and fire energy into himself. Jugubo told Yun Feng before leaving that it was not a lie not to touch the spring water of the yin-yang eye of ice and fire. Even if he was a titled Buo, it would be difficult for him to escape if he fell into the yin-yang eye of ice and fire. In the spring water of the yin-yang eye of ice and fire, all highly toxic parts are ineffective. No toxins can remain in this extreme spring water. Yun Feng chose these two herbs that were not the most helpful to himself, just to leave himself a way out. If Jugubo breaks his promise, then, after absorbing the 8 anise mysterious ice grass and the fiery apricot, he can also stay in the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire to avoid disaster. At the same time, Yun Feng must take these two herbs for another reason. He is not as poisonous as Jugubo, who is not afraid of the extreme breath of the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire. If he does not take these two herbs, then, I am afraid that he will be destroyed by the breath here before tomorrow. The Day agreed with Jugubo. Even if he wants to leave now, the energy of ice and fire left in his body will cause him incurable destructive trauma. Don't even think about future cultivation. Whether he can save his life is a problem. However, no matter how good the information is, it is impossible to write all the experiences clearly. Although the records in the original book are detailed and there are no mistakes, but it was not until he really took the two extreme herbs that Yun Feng knew how great the pain he had to endure was. Although the two energies of ice and fire had been neutralized before, they stirred wildly after entering his body. The power of the immortal herbs was so terrifying. The ice and fire counteracted each other, and the energy impact exploded instantly. Yun Feng didn't even have the chance to resist with his willpower. After falling into the cold and hot yin-yang eye of ice and fire for a moment, he fell into a coma. The spring water and the yin-yang eye of ice and fire churned as Yun Feng fell in. It didn't take long. Yun Feng had quietly sunk into it while the spring water surged. The water surface returned to calm, and the milky white and red were still so distinct. Water vapor was still filling the air, and everything returned to silence. Time is like water, from morning to night, it's just the rising and setting of the sun. Someone once said this: a day passed by when you closed your eyes and opened them, and a lifetime passed by when you closed your eyes. Sometimes time seems very long, but it is so short. This is the case for everyone's life. Night fell again, darkness enveloped the earth, and the range of the yin-yang eye of ice and fire fell into darkness again. But Yun Feng, who had sunk into it, still did not surface, as if he had completely disappeared from the spring. In the sunset forest, a group of 3 people were flying through the forest. They kept moving forward. They shuttled between the trees. There were 2 men and 1 woman among the 3 people. The 2 men had extremely anxious expressions on their faces. Although the woman's expression was slightly calm, her brows were also furrowed. Among the 2 men, one who looked thinner was supported by the armpits of the other man and moved forward with the help of the force. These 3 people were the golden iron triangle that was once famous in the Soul Master world and then fell apart. That day, after Yun Feng disappeared silently, the master immediately found Flanders and returned to the place where Yun Feng disappeared, summoning his martial soul Wo Sanpao. Although Sanpao's strength was not strong, it had one very good thing, that is, its sense of smell. Moreover, it was one with the master, and it would remember everything the master had smelled. After a short investigation, the master immediately learned the whereabouts of Yun Feng from Sanpao's judgment. He was captured by the titled Luo Jugubo that he had seen during the day. Thinking of the old monster covered in poison, the master could not help but fall into panic. What good would Yun Feng have if he fell into the hands of the old poison? Moreover, they did not know the whereabouts of the old monster. Flanders was also anxious. Although Yun Feng was not his direct disciple, he was the most powerful one in Shrek and a student of his Shrek Academy. What's more, he never dared to forget the instructions of the man in black at the beginning. That was a more terrifying existence than poison Buo. Tang Hao regarded Yun Feng as his son's future helper. However, at this time, Flanders was calmer than the master. After careful thinking, Flanders proposed to return to Tandu Royal Academy. The day before at Tandu Royal Academy, when the 3 members of the education committee joined forces to fight Poison Buo, they obviously knew him. Perhaps the 3 members of the education committee knew the whereabouts of Jugubo. If they didn't know, they would have to look for the Prince of Snow Star. Of course, it is obviously unwise to confront an imperial prince head-on, but there is no problem in exerting pressure. After all, whether it is the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex, the sect of the Master and Liu Ralong, or the 7 treasures glazed sect behind Ningrong Narong, they are all among the 7 major sects in the world. Even if the Prince of Xuxing is powerful, he dare not offend the 2 major sects in the empire. In fact, the 3 did not use the plan to intimidate the prince. Seeing the 3 teaching committee members of Tandu Royal Academy again, the 3 sold Luos felt ashamed of what happened before. When they heard that Yun Feng was captured by Jugubo, the 3 sold Luos were immediately shocked. Chapter 227. Are you here to see me? They told the Golden Triangle that Jugubo was always a loner. Although he was employed by the royal family, he did not live in Tandu City. Instead, he lived in the Sunset Forest, reportedly on a mountain, but they did not know the exact location. The 3 Seoul Buo Education Committee members expressed regret for Yun Feng's disappearance. But they also said that they could not help the Shrek Academy to deal with Jugubo, although they did not make it clear why. But Flanders and the other 2 naturally understood. Who would be willing to face the poison Buo with terrifying poison? Even a titled Buo level powerhouse would have to be wary of the all-pervasive poison. The Golden Triangle did not beg. The 3 of them left the Tandu Royal Academy at lightning speed and headed straight for the Sunset Forest under the leadership of Liu Ralong. The Sunset Forest is located 100 miles east of Tandu City. It is one of the major wild soul beast settlements in the Tandu Empire. Although its area is not as large as the Starred Great Forest, there are many high-level soul beasts in it. Enter the Sunset Forest from early morning. The 3 of them had been searching for a whole day, and they only took a short break before continuing their search. Although Liu Ralong didn't know much about Yun Feng, she was quite concerned about Yun Feng's talent after learning about him. Ralong, take a break. Flanders stopped and panted slightly. It was a busy day. Although it was nothing for a soul saint of over 70 levels like him, he was mentally exhausted. Liu Ralong stopped and came to Flanders and Yao Gang. Looking at Yao Gang with a gloomy face, he comforted him. Don't worry, I don't think Jugubo will kill Yun Feng. Otherwise, he would just do it in our academy. Why would he capture Yun Feng? Yu Gang didn't have any other ideas at this time. He sighed, and a painful light flashed in his eyes. No, you don't understand. Zhuge Bo must have taken Yun Feng away because of the harm Yun Feng had done to Zhuge Yan, and Yun Feng's talent for poison. If I'm right, Zhuge Bo must have become interested in Yun Feng's poison. He wants to see what his poison is. And I'm sure Zhuge Bo will never let Yun Feng live. It just depends on how long Yun Feng can be used by him. Zhuge Bo is both good and evil. He has never had a good reputation in the Soul Master world. He does everything based on his likes and dislikes. With Yun Feng's talent, if I were him, I would never let Yun Feng go. Flanders smiled bitterly. If Yun Feng really gets into trouble, how can we explain it to ourselves? Liu Erlong was a little confused. What was he talking about? Himself? Could there be some other purpose? Flanders was about to speak when suddenly a vigorous whistle came from a distance. The roar was like thunder, destroying the silence in the night sky and startling the soul beasts in the forest. The three looked at each other and stood up almost at the same time. Of course, they could hear how amazing the power contained in the roar was. And this power was also exclusive to the titled Buo. Could there be another titled Buo in this sunset forest? The three of them took off and flew away based on their judgment of the location of the roar. Zhuge Bo stood at the entrance of the cave, looking into the night sky, with green light flashing in his eyes. He put his hands behind his back and exhaled a foul breath. At this time, he had just endured the pain caused by Yun Feng. If it was just pain, he might be able to bear it, but the feeling of numbness and itching in the heart was not something that people could bear. With Zhuge Bo's strength, his clothes were soaked at this time. His long roar was expressing the depression in his heart after the pain. I wonder if that guy is dead, Zhuge Bo thought to himself. He was very familiar with the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire. That place was not a place where living things could survive. There were many kinds of herbs, but plants could survive, but living things could not. He had seen with his own eyes a poisonous six-headed lizard that exploded and died after entering the range of the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire in just a few hours. For some reason, Zhuge Bo felt a little regretful at this time. He still believed Yun Feng's words. If that kid really detoxified himself and his granddaughter, wouldn't he miss the best opportunity now? Perhaps, this test for him was too difficult. Thinking of this, Zhuge Bo's mood changed slightly. Thinking about Yun Feng's talent, he suddenly felt that maybe that kid really had a way to detoxify himself. No, Zhuge Bo's eyes flashed, and he decided to go to the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire to see if Yun Feng was still alive, and then get him out. Just as Zhuge Bo was about to go to the top of the mountain, suddenly, three long howls sounded at the same time, two strong and one weak, some low, some passionate, but all filled with strong hostility. The howling sound was approaching. By listening to the sound and locating the location, it seemed that the owner of the howling sound was about to come down the mountain. Zhuge Bo narrowed his eyes slightly and snorted with disdain. Are you challenging me? Well, I want to see who is so bold. Giving up the idea of climbing the mountain, Zhuge Bo took a step and came to the cliff in front of the cave and looked down the mountain. He saw three figures, just like Xingwan jumping, flying towards his position. Seeing these three people, Zhuge Bo's disdain in his eyes became even stronger. They were just two soul saints of more than 70 levels, and there was a great soul master who had not even passed the 30th level. Are they here to die? It's no wonder that Zhuge Bo would think so. With his strength as a titled Buo, not to mention soul saints, even souled Luos would tremble in front of him. What's more, his poison is not something that anyone can contend with. Even titled Luos of the same level have to be cautious. If something goes wrong and he is poisoned by him, then there is no way to survive. The three members of the Golden Triangle rose up almost at the same time and landed in front of Zhuge Bo. Although they had always hoped to find Zhuge Bo as soon as possible, but when they really faced this titled Poison Buo again, their hearts sank at the same time. Zhuge Bo put his hands behind his back, and the green light in his eyes was full of gloomy aura. He was staring at them scorchingly, and the strong pressure seemed to make the air solidify. If the master had not been protected by the soul power of Flanders and Liu Erlong, this pressure alone would be enough to kill him. Are you here to find me? Zhuge Bo said coldly. Yu Gang said angrily. Jugubo, where is Yun Feng? Where did you take him? Jugubo said disdainfully. Who do you think you are? Do you have the qualifications to question me? Yu Zhaogang was about to say something else, but was stopped by Flanders. Flanders knew that because of Yun Feng, the usually calm Yu Zhaogang was now confused, and it would be useless to continue like this. He calmly looked at the poisoned Buo in front of him, bowed slightly, and said, Senior Jugu, Yun Feng is our student. I don't know how he offended you, please show some mercy. After all, he is only a 13-year-old child. You are a titled Buo, please be magnanimous and let him go. Chapter 228 Ants. Flanders thought his words were very subtle and slightly sarcastic. Unfortunately, he met the unyielding poisoned Buo. Jugubo rolled his eyes. Are you bullying me because of my power? If you beat them, the old ones will come out. After I beat you, I wonder if there are any old ones above you who will come out? Yun Feng is already dead. Do you want to avenge him? Okay, come on. I wanted to stretch my hands and feet yesterday, but those three old guys didn't dare to do anything. Although you three are not very good, you can still stretch your hands and feet for me. When Yu Zhaogang heard Jugubo say that Yun Feng was dead, he felt his brain buzzing and his eyes went dark. His ideal is gone? Exclamation mark. At this time, when he heard Jugubo say that Yun Feng was dead, what he felt in his heart was not only pain, but despair. People will have different changes under extreme emotions. Some people become stupid, and some people become hysterical. But Yu Zhaogang is different. At this moment, the vitality in his body seemed to have been completely drained, and the temperature around his body seemed to have completely disappeared. The whole person looked as cold as a piece of ice, and the look in his eyes when he looked at Jugubo was completely cold. Even a strong man like Jugubo, being stared at by Yu Zhaogang's cold eyes full of death, couldn't help but feel a thorn in his back. He couldn't help but frowned slightly. It must be an illusion, a small ant, actually showing such an expression to himself. Isn't this courting death? Flanders' face has also completely darkened. Jugubo, you will regret killing Yun Feng. Even if we can't do it, you won't have a good ending. Jugubo curled his lips. What, do you still want to take revenge later? No. You won't have a chance. Come on, let me see what you have done to dare to provoke me. I don't know if you believe it or not. I have 1,000 ways to make you wish you were dead or alive. I haven't seen such a spectacular scene for a long time. It's easy to come, but it's probably not that easy to leave. My Jugubo's base is not for anyone to come. Flanders and Liu Erlong looked at each other, and they both pulled Yu Zhaogang behind them at the same time, and at the same time, each took a step forward diagonally. Suddenly, the three of them formed a triangle formation. The sun and the moon shine, and the gold turns. Flanders shouted. He did not release his martial spirit, and a strong golden light suddenly burst out from him. The golden light did not go towards Jugubo. Instead, it rushed into the sky, and at the same time, it also spread out from under his feet. The same golden light also appeared on Yu Zhaogang and Liu Erlong. The golden light was diffused. In an instant, the three of them were the top. It formed a golden triangle. In the innermost part of the triangle was a golden halo. The surrounding parts were all covered with a layer of shining gold. Flanders and Liu Erlong slowly closed their eyes. The light in Yu Zhaogang's eyes became brighter, and he stared at Jugubo like two sharp swords. Hey, what kind of soul skill is this? Jugubo looked at the three people in front of him with some surprise, and he was somewhat confused. As a titled Buo, he was naturally knowledgeable, but he had never seen such a situation before. He didn't understand why the aura of the great soul master who was less than level 30 before was faintly fighting against him. 3 layers of purple air emerged from the golden light and slowly dissipated in the air. Seeing this scene, Jugubo's face finally changed a little. Of course, he knew the purple air. There were poison arrays set up by Jugubo around this mountain. Anyone who entered would be contaminated by the poison. This poison is not very strong, but it is very vicious. It takes an hour to work. After an hour, the poisoned person will twitch, his meridians will shrink and die. The purple air released from Flanders and the other two at this time was obviously the poison contained in their poison array being forced out by them. The poison in the poison array is nothing to Jugubo, but it is extremely deadly to ordinary soul masters. Without the level of soul Buo, It is impossible to force out this poison. This is also the most puzzling thing for Zhuge. Obviously, there are only 2 of the 3 people in the 70s, and one is less than 30. Why does it feel to him at this moment that the 3 have become Soul Buo level masters? Zhuge became famous too early, and later rarely traveled on the mainland, so naturally he had never heard of the reputation of the Golden Iron Triangle. The so-called Golden Iron Triangle does not refer to the cooperation of 3 people. It is a special martial soul fusion skill with Flanders, Yu Gang and Liu Erlong as the top. In the world of soul masters, martial soul fusion skills are rarely seen. It must be a coincidence and the martial souls of both parties have great complementarity to be successful. The martial soul fusion skills performed by Flanders, Yu Gang and Liu Erlong were performed by 3 people, which is almost unique in the world of soul masters. The more soul masters perform martial soul fusion skills, the stronger the power. At the same time, the power of martial soul fusion skills is also related to the degree of compatibility between soul masters. For example, the degree of compatibility between Daimabai and Juzukin is only 60% now. Once performed, they can defeat 2 opponents who are stronger than them. The Golden Iron Triangle formed by Yu Gang and the other 2, not only is the martial soul fusion skill performed by 3 people, but also the degree of compatibility between them is also a myth in the world of soul masters, as high as 99%. Once activated, the strength enhancement is geometrical, otherwise, they would not have been so famous at the beginning. Until now, even Yu Gang, who has been devoted to studying the various changes of martial souls, did not understand why the martial soul compatibility between him, Flanders and Liu Erlong could reach such a terrifying level. Outside of them, even a compatibility of more than 70% is already very rare. The innate compatibility plus the 3 of them being together for many years made their martial soul fusion skills close to 100%. Even though they had not cooperated for 20 years, they used their martial soul fusion skills again. They immediately felt like water and milk blending together, and the 3 of them became one, entering the rhythm of the Golden Iron Triangle. Zhuge did not take any action after a brief surprise, and still stood with his hands behind his back. With his pride, facing 3 opponents who were far less powerful than him, he would naturally not take the initiative. He wanted to see how powerful the martial soul fusion skills performed by the 3 of them could be. The golden light was dazzling, with Yu Gang and the other 2 as the apex, and a strong triangular light column rose into the sky. Yu Gang's eyes, which were filled with deathly coldness, suddenly became dazzling, and he slowly raised his right hand. He raised it towards the center of the golden triangle formed by the 3 people. Luo Sanpao, with Yu Gang's roar that sounded like a dragon's roar, the chubby Luo Sanpao appeared out of thin air and landed right in the circular pattern in the center of the golden triangle. In an instant, Yu Gang and the other 2 people simultaneously emerged with their own halos. Yu Gang had 2. And Flanders and Liu Erlong had 7 each. A total of 16 halos actually floated out from them and flew towards Sanpao in the center of the golden halo. Seeing this scene, Zhuge face couldn't help but change again. Chapter 229, Pig Turns into Dragon. He knew very well that the power of the martial soul fusion technique performed by the host body was greater than that of the ordinary martial soul fusion technique. The pressure from the golden triangle light column increased sharply. Zhuge face changed slightly, and circles of halos rose from his feet, releasing his terrifying 9 soul rings. The 3 masters' total of 16 halos fell on Luo Sanpao at the same time. Luo Sanpao, who looked very cute before, seemed to be in great pain and let out a strong dragon roar. Then, his chubby body began to expand violently under the loading of 16 soul rings, and it slowly rose with the light released from the golden triangle. Luo Sanpao's body grew at an extremely amazing speed, and large pieces of diamond-shaped scales began to grow from his chubby body. Solid muscles bulged, the huge body continued to expand, and 2 twisted horns grew from the top of his head. The blue-purple light continued to stir around the body, and under the rendering of the golden triangle, it gradually turned into gold. In just a few breaths, Luo Sanpao's body had expanded to a length of 20 meters. The scales on his back split open, and a pair of huge dragon wings stretched out. With the wings open, he could float in the air without the help of golden light. His eyes, which originally exuded a simple and honest aura, were full of might, and like his body, they had completely turned golden. At this time, Luo Sanpao was no longer a creature that looked like a pig or a dog. Instead, he turned into a majestic and radiant golden dragon, with 4 claws under his belly and thick dragon scales covering his body. His golden dragon eyes were filled with a majestic aura. The powerful dragon might spread everywhere, causing the soul beasts in the sunset forest to cry uncomfortably. Even Jugubo could not help but frown at the heavy aura. Although Jugubo thought that the power of the 3 people's martial soul fusion skills was not bad, he could not guess that they could actually summon such a golden dragon. Golden electric lights surrounded Luo Sanpao's body. Luo Sanpao's body was radiant and suspended there, like a golden sun. Could it be that this is the dragon race that only exists in legends? The sacred dragon? Jugubo was somewhat uneasy. Although Luo Sanpao did not have any sacred aura, but Jugubo knew that only the most powerful sacred dragon in the dragon race would have a golden body. Flanders and Liu Erlong still closed their eyes, unaware of everything in the outside world. The 2 of them had even turned into 2 golden balls of light. So what if it was a sacred dragon? Jugubo's inner pride was completely aroused by Luo Sanpao in front of him, and a piercing long roar came out of his mouth. Emerald green light burst out from his body. His body stretched out in the wind, and the first 7 soul rings lit up at the same time. Then, his tall and thin body continued to expand in the green light and soared up. The emerald green scales were also diamond-shaped, looking like pieces of emerald inlaid. The human body had disappeared, and Jugubo now transformed into a huge emerald green snake. His transformation speed was obviously faster than Luo Sanpao's. Moreover, its body had surpassed Luo Sanpao in the blink of an eye, and was 30 meters long and as thick as a water tank. Most of its body stood up and confronted Luo Sanpao head-on. A pair of huge green snake eyes stared at Luo Sanpao coldly. The snake tongue in its mouth was moving, and thick green mist was lingering around its body. This was Jugubo's martial soul, the green phosphorus snake king. Zhuge Yan inherited Jugubo's martial soul, the green phosphorus snake, and it had reached the level of a titled Buo. Jugubo's martial soul was not comparable to that of a level 70 soul saint. The green phosphorus snake king's scales were spread out, and its cold eyes stared at Luo Sanpao. Luo Sanpao's body seemed to have been completely transformed. He looked up to the sky and roared like a dragon. His wings spread out, and he suddenly opened his mouth, and a golden lightning bolt blasted directly towards Jugubo. The green phosphorus snake king that Jugubo transformed into did not dodge, and opened his mouth to spray out a mouthful of green mist. 9 soul rings circled around its huge body. It lowered its head and used its body to block Luo Sanpao's attack. With a loud bang, golden lightning spread from its head to the tail of the green phosphorus snake king. Its huge body stiffened for a moment, but it was only stiff for a moment. Luo Sanpao spread his wings and leaped quietly. At the same time, a golden breath spurted out of his mouth, colliding with the green mist spurted out by the green phosphorus snake king. At this time, Jugubo was facing Luo Sanpao controlled by the master. Once the golden iron triangle martial soul fusion technique was launched, Flanders of the Flying Horn provided the ability to fly and his own soul power. Yurlong of the Killing Horn provided the dragon body. The master provided Luo Sanpao as a host, which was completely a tool. After completing the evolution of Luo Sanpao, Flanders and Liu Erlong needed to do their best to integrate their own soul power into the martial soul fusion technique, and Luo Sanpao was naturally controlled by the master's consciousness because he was one with the master. Therefore, what Jugubo was facing at this time was a sacred dragon with the mind of the master. Of course, Luo Sanpao was not a real sacred dragon. A pseudo-word should be added in front. The master's martial soul mutation certainly made him lose the powerful martial soul of the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex family. But Luo Sanpao's mutation was not just towards a low-level mutation, but should have been towards a higher-level dragon mutation but failed to succeed. At this time, the evolution produced by the Golden Iron Triangle martial soul fusion technique was to amplify the already evolved blood in Luo Sanpao's body, allowing it to temporarily possess some of the abilities of the sacred dragon. Although the master's strength was not good, his theoretical knowledge could be invincible. Facing the green mist sprayed by the green phosphorus Snake King, he did not let Sanpao meet it, but spread his wings. As he retreated, he fanned a gust of wind and blew away the green mist. The huge body of the green phosphorus Snake King suddenly moved, and the seemingly bulky body suddenly bounced up from the ground and chased Luo Sanpao's body with a snake kiss. Luo Sanpao was in midair, and his equally huge body suddenly moved sideways in the face of the attack of the green phosphorus Snake King. His two front claws stretched out and grabbed the green phosphorus Snake King 7 inches away. A dragon and a snake, just like that, started a fierce melee in midair. Jugubo was shocked. He found that this golden dragon, which looked like a sacred dragon, actually had a suppressive aura against him. Snakes are also a kind of dragon, and the green phosphorus Snake King is even closer to a dragon, but the sacred dragon is the most powerful of all dragons. Even if Luo Sanpao only has a certain aura of him, he can suppress the green phosphorus Snake King to a certain extent. The sacred dragon is also known as the Golden Holy Dragon, and it has a skill to break evil. It can have a strong resistance to all evil auras, including toxins. Therefore, although the green phosphorus Snake King is extremely poisonous, it can never penetrate into the golden light inside it. Jugubo clearly felt that the power of this golden holy dragon was obviously not as good as his, but it was much more flexible than him, making him more passive when the toxins were useless. Moreover, the golden holy dragon's body was extremely flexible, and it kept fighting with its sharp claws. The jade phosphorus Snake King did not have the ability to fly, and Luo Sanpao, who was in the air, clearly had the advantage of flying. The golden light and the green light kept colliding, and the whole mountain was shaking. For a moment, rocks flew everywhere, and the light was dazzling. The huge fluctuations of the aura caused the soul beasts around the mountain to flee in all directions, and they dared not approach again. It was just like the shock caused by the pressure released by the Titan Giant Ape and the Azure Bull Python and the starred Great Forest. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230. After turning into a dragon, he also farted. Jugubo was really depressed. Of course, he was not unable to defeat Luo Sanpao in front of him, but his skills were a little too overbearing. Once he used them, he couldn't even control them completely. This mountain was his home, and there were yin-yang eyes of ice and fire inside. If he used his skills excessively and destroyed this place, it would be more trouble than it was worth. Suddenly, Jugubo had an idea. The root of martial soul fusion skills was still Soul Master's. No matter how strong the sacred dragon in front of him was, as long as he interrupted the martial soul fusion skills of those three guys, the sacred dragon would disappear on its own. Thinking of this, Jugubo's huge body shook slightly and dodged Luo Sanpao's attack. At the same time, the snake's tail swept out, like autumn wind sweeping fallen leaves, sweeping towards Yao Gang and the other two. He didn't even dodge Luo Sanpao's subsequent attacks. A harsh friction sound came from Jugubo, and Luo Sanpao's dragon claws brought a series of sparks on him. However, a titled Buo is a titled Buo after all, and even Luo Sanpao's pseudo-sacred dragon claws could not directly penetrate his defense. Jugubo was not feeling well either. The attack of the Golden Holy Dragon contained two overbearing attributes, lightning and fire. Although the claws did not break his body, the magic elements contained in them had already invaded his body. The intense pain made the body of the green phosphorus Snake King shake. Boom! The snake's tail, as thick as a water tank, swept heavily on the golden light column formed by the golden iron triangle. However, the golden light column did not break as Jugubo imagined. Jugubo only felt that the snake's tail swept it like a mountain. Although the golden light of the triangle fluctuated violently, the three people covered by the light were not hurt at all. The golden holy dragon Luo Sanpao pounced down again, and his claws flashed with golden light. At the same time, the two horns on his head each shot out a golden lightning, which merged into one in the air and directly hit Jugubo's body. In shock and anger, Bo could only barely turn sideways and roll out. At the same time, he opened his mouth and spurted out a green bead, releasing a semi-arc green light shield that enveloped his body. The golden light and the green light collided again, and the strong halo scattered everywhere. The golden holy dragon Luo Sanpao was rebounded by the powerful energy fluctuation and flew directly up, and the green phosphorus snake king also twisted violently. "Youngsters, do you really want to die?" Bo was finally enraged. The huge snake tail suddenly twitched on the mountain, and the green poisonous mist around the body was sucked back into the body at the same time. The muscles under the snake head began to flatten, and half of the snake body stood up. The original green snake eyes instantly turned into a terrifying white, and a layer of white halo was rendered on the snake head. Although he could not use the powerful skills of the last two soul rings to destroy this place, but Bo has been a titled Buo for many years, and he has countless hidden skills. Although his title is poison, he is not only capable of poison. Two pale white rays of light shot out from the green phosphorus snake king's wide eyes at the same time, and went straight to Luo Sanpao's body. Gang's heart skipped a beat when he saw the white light. He clearly felt that it was not a skill in Bo's soul ring. The change in the snake head was undoubtedly an ability attached to the soul bone. Among the 6 orthodox soul bones, the skull and sternum are undoubtedly the most important. At this time, Bo should have used the ability of the head soul bone. As expected, none of the titled Buo is easy to deal with. It is normal for a soul bone that ordinary soul masters can't even see to appear on him. Gang didn't dare to let Luo Sanpao be hit by the pale white light. From the opponent's solemn posture, it can be seen that these two white lights are not ordinary attacks. Luo Sanpao's dragon wings converged, and his body fell to the ground like a meteorite. At the same time, the golden light on his body was shining, and he suddenly turned his body in midair, fired like thunder. "Luo Sanpao, the sky is cracking and the earth is splitting." Gang shouted out the soul skill of the original Sanpao. It was just under the effect of the golden iron triangle martial soul fusion skill, the golden holy dragon. This was no longer the original skill that was so weak that even Tang San could easily resist it. A golden mist gushed out from Luo Sanpao's dragon tail. It condensed into a golden light shield in the air to block the flying white light. With a humming sound, Luo Sanpao and Gang's bodies trembled violently at the same time. The moment the flying golden light collided with the pale white light in the air, it was completely rendered white by the white light. Then, an even more shocking scene happened. The rendered shield just underwent a qualitative change in the air. The original empty energy became a solid entity, turning into a stone falling from the sky. Gang finally knew what the soul bone in Bo's head was. He couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. If his guess was right, it should be one of the top existences among snake soul beasts. The soul bone that can only be produced by Medusa, known as the Queen of Snakes. Judging from its skill Medusa's gaze, which can turn even energy into stone, that soul bone at least fell from a 10,000-year-old Medusa. Although Luo Sanpao's shield blocked the attack, the golden light on Luo Sanpao's body became much dimmer under the energy traction. In the golden iron triangle, whether it was Gang, Flanders, or Liu Long, their bodies were all shaking violently. Their martial soul fusion skill was equivalent to integrating all the power of the 3 people into Luo Sanpao's body. Luo Sanpao's body was equivalent to the body of the 3 of them. The most domineering part of this skill was that after it was used, the 3 of them temporarily entered an invincible state. Unless Luo Sanpao was destroyed or their soul power was exhausted, any attack and abnormal state would be invalid. It was precisely because of this that neither the toxins in the previous poison formation nor the attack of Bo's snake tail later could cause them any harm. "Humphrey, you can dodge it once, can you dodge it a second time?" The pale eyes of the green phosphorus snake emperor looked at Luo Sanpao again. Bo was knowledgeable and naturally guessed the effect of the golden iron triangle martial soul fusion skill. Although the golden holy dragon in front of them was not weak, the soul power of Gang and the other 2 was far behind him. Luo Sanpao at this moment was not enough to pose a real threat to him. If the titled Buo was so easily defeated, how could he be called the strongest on the continent? A distant dragon roar came from Luo Sanpao's mouth, Yu Gang knew that if he didn't take out the last resort at this time, he might not be able to support the energy of the three of them. Medusa's gaze was too terrifying. Once hit, Sanpao would be in danger. The golden light shone again. Yu Gang, Flanders and Liu Erlong almost spit out blood at the same time, falling on the ring in the center of the golden triangle formation. In an instant, the blood of the three merged into one inside the ring, turning into a point of golden light that fell on Luo Sanpao like lightning, opening his dragon wings. Luo Sanpao did not dodge the attack of the green phosphorus snake emperor this time, and the golden light on his body burned like a flame. The dragon roared louder and louder, and the golden flame actually condensed into another one in front of him, turning into a transparent dragon shadow, and rushed straight towards the green phosphorus snake king. The secret of the golden holy dragon, the holy dragon Dharma. Chapter 231, Law. Yu Gang takes the blame. 20 years ago, Yu Gang and the other two had completed half of this skill. 20 years later, although Yu Gang had not made any progress, Flanders and Liu Erlong had both become Soul Saint level Soul Masters. They finally used this skill for the first time. At the same time as the holy dragon that turned into light and shadow flew out, Luo Sanpao's body shrank rapidly in midair, turned into a blue-purple light and flew back to Yu Gang and disappeared. The halo on the golden iron triangle also converged at the same time, and all the gold was flying away. The faces of the three people turned pale at the same time. Asshole, Jugubo roared. The holy dragon phase is one of the strongest mysteries of the golden holy dragon. Even if it is just a pseudo-golden holy dragon, the power it bursts out is also extraordinary. Medusa's gaze is a terrifying beam that mutates objects or energy, but it also has its limits. The holy dragon phase that hit him like a trend has obviously exceeded the limit of Medusa's gaze. What made Jugubo even more depressed was that he could not dodge now. With the power of the holy dragon form, if he dodges, then the mountain behind him will be razed to the ground in an instant, and the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire will be destroyed and disappear immediately. Therefore, even though he is unwilling, he must rely on his own strength to block this attack. The eighth soul ring on Jugubo's body lit up, and the black light painted the snake body, instantly turning the emerald green into dark green. Jugubo's raised snake returned to normal, and the emerald green bead spewed out of his mouth again. A strange scene appeared. Whether it was the pale-faced three people of the golden iron triangle or the holy dragon form in the air, they all stopped at their positions at this moment. Everything around them, even the wind, stopped in midair. Everything has solidified. The huge body of the green phosphorus snake king turned transparent and disappeared, and Jugubo's body was suspended in midair. With his right hand, he controlled the emerald green bead and slowly flew towards the holy dragon form. The eighth soul skill. What he was performing in front of him was his eighth soul skill, time solidification. If the destructive power of this soul skill is combined with his ninth soul skill, even a city can be easily destroyed. The soul power consumed by this soul skill is extremely huge for Jugubo. If it is not a last resort, he will never use it easily. The emerald green bead flew all the way to the inside of the holy dragon phase. Jugubo's eyes were shining with green light. Melt. The green light spread instantly, rendering the golden holy dragon phase completely green, and it turned into an existence like an emerald dragon. With a string of emerald green after images, Jugubo came to the holy dragon phase that turned into emerald green. His face also looked a little pale, and he couldn't help but feel a little fortunate in his heart. Fortunately, this was a fake golden holy dragon. If it was the holy dragon phase of the real golden holy dragon, then even his own time and space solidification might not be able to restrict him. He raised his hand, carefully took back the emerald green bead, and put it into his mouth. He pressed his left hand on the head of the holy dragon phase, and the green light in his eyes converged, but his entire left hand turned completely green. With his 5 fingers drawn together, Jugubo's eyes lit up with 2 cold stars, and he shouted loudly, "Break!" The crisp cracking sound was so obvious in the night sky. The emerald-like holy dragon image began to spread from the head, and in the blink of an eye it had spread to the whole body. Jugubo's figure flashed, and he had returned to the previous position on the mountain. The black light of the 8th soul ring on his body converged. Recover. The solidified space returned to normal, But the holy dragon image could no longer move forward. All the cracks turned it into broken glass, and with a bang, the light shone in all directions. A circle of surging energy fluctuations turned into a halo and flew everywhere, but it no longer had the power of the previous attack. Yu Gang, Flanders and Liu Erlong all stood there, and blood was flowing from the corners of their mouths. The martial soul fusion technique almost exhausted all their soul power, but Jugubo in front of them was still so high and mighty. After all, the titled Buo was the titled Buo, and they were defeated after all. Jugubo's eyes showed some emotions that a normal person should have. He looked at the golden iron triangle in front of him, who had little resistance but still stood up straight, and said calmly, "You are very good. With such soul power, you can cause me a lot of trouble. This martial soul fusion skill is indeed the best I have ever seen. If it were a soul master at the level of Soul Buo, I am afraid it would not be your opponent." Jugubo rarely praised people, but the martial soul fusion skill of the golden iron triangle did leave a very deep impression on him. Yu Gang said calmly, "So what? You still won. Do it." Yun Feng's death was a great blow to Yu Gang. His ideals were shattered and he even felt a little bit bad. The three of them saw that the holy dragon Dharma image was broken, and they knew that it would be difficult to leave here alive today. Their most valuable martial soul fusion skill did not cause any real damage to the titled Yuo in front of them. "Isn't it easy to die?" The green light flashed, and Jugubo had already arrived in front of the three people. "Wait a minute." Flanders seemed to have suddenly thought of something and opened his eyes again. "Jugubo, Yun Feng is my student. This matter has nothing to do with the two of them. If you let them go, I will give you my life and you can do whatever you want with me." Jugubo said disdainfully, "Do you have the qualifications to negotiate with me?" Yu Erlong smiled. "Senior Jugu, we are indeed not qualified, but I wonder if you can see what our martial spirits are. Yu Gang and I are both from the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex family. Maybe we are not your opponents, but can you afford to offend our family?" Liu Erlong, "Shut up!" Yu Gang shouted instantly, and his heart sank. If Liu Erlong did not reveal her origin, maybe he still had a chance to survive, but now she came out. With Jugubo's character, how could he not cut the grass and root it out to prevent future troubles? Sure enough, Jugubo's face changed slightly after hearing Erlong's words. Recalling the martial soul fusion skills of the three people before, he frowned and said, "You are actually from the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex family? Okay, very good. So what? Even if I can't beat the dragon in your family, as long as I kill you, what evidence does your family have to come to me to settle accounts? It's a very easy thing for me to leave no corpse." Yu Erlong smiled and said, "Senior, as long as you kill me and Yu Gang, then even if our family comes, you can completely shirk it. But Flanders has nothing to do with our family. Even if he reveals it to our family, I'm afraid no one will believe him. He alone is not enough to constitute evidence. It's okay if the two of us die, but I wonder if you can let him go." Chapter 232 I think Liu Erlong is still charming. Jugubo laughed. "Do you think I'm a fool? Let the tiger go back to the mountain. Although there is nothing in this world that I am afraid of, I have always adhered to the principle of cutting the grass and eradicating the roots. Kill all three of you. Wouldn't it be safer?" Yu Erlong's eyes turned cold, and a blue metal ball appeared when she turned her wrist. "Then you can try it. This is a unique communication device of our family. Although you are stronger than us, I am sure that I can release it the moment you kill us. This is your territory. When the time comes, as long as someone from our family comes, can you get away with it? As long as you let Flanders go, we will let you kill him and will not release him." Yu Erlong was not sad about dragging Yu Gang into the water, but was secretly excited. She never thought that death was a terrible thing. "Liu Erlong, what are you doing?" "Am I, Flanders, a coward? Kill me if you want. We will still be brothers and sisters in the underground. What if our golden triangle dies together?" "Release the communication device in your hand. At least someone will avenge us." Flanders flashed and stood in front of Liu Erlong and Yu Gang. Yu Erlong said anxiously, "Boss Flanders, you are crazy. Go away. This is not the time to show off." Flanders sighed. "I've lived for more than 50 years, so dying now is not considered premature. Erlong, although you don't love me, in my heart. Your position is just like Liao Gang's in your heart. For me, what regrets can I have if I can die with you? It's just a pity for Yun Feng, Jugubo. I'm not afraid to tell you that Yun Feng is not someone you can't afford to offend. Once we can't go back, my people will immediately look for the 7 treasures glazed tile sect and Tang San's father. Their existence is even more terrifying than the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex family. Oh, Jugubo looked at the 3 people in front of him with interest. Although he had known about the existence of the 7 treasures glazed tile sect for a long time, he was quite curious about what else was there. So, what background does that kid have? Someone that even I can't afford to offend? There are really not many in this world. Come and listen. Who is it? Flanders snorted coldly. Tang San's father Tang Hao. Yun Feng is Tang San's good brother. Do you think there is any interest relationship between them? Jugubo was stunned for a moment, and then quickly. He seemed to have thought of something. His face suddenly changed drastically. Tang San, that person's last name is Tang too. Could it be? That's not right. That person's spirit is just blue silver grass. Liao Gang said coldly. Yes, the spirit you saw is just blue silver grass, but what if he has 2 spirits? If Yun Feng dies, you will offend more than just one titled Buo. What did you say? Jugubo's heart was shocked beyond words. Yurlong said calmly. Yes. Jugubo's eyes showed an uncertain light. His right hand slowly raised, and a fierce light flashed in his eyes. At this time, he had secretly made up his mind, not only to kill the 3 people in front of him immediately, but also to kill Yun Feng as soon as possible. Flanders was right. That person was indeed someone he couldn't afford to offend. But as long as he destroyed the body and left here immediately, it would not be easy for that person to find him. When Jugubo was about to take ruthless action, suddenly, a calm voice came from a distance. Jugubo, you dare. Jugubo was stunned for a moment and turned his head to look in the direction of the voice. A figure was seen flying towards them at a very fast speed. Yun Feng, Liao Gang and Flanders shouted in unison, with astonishment in their eyes. That's right, it was Yun Feng who came. Under the effect of his soul skills, he was in front of everyone in just a short while. Yun Feng released the 8 spider lance as soon as he met them, and it looked a little different. The 8 spider lance behind him had some strange changes compared to before. The size of the 8 spider lance remained the same, but the original blue-purple 8 spider lance had turned dark red. On the dark red body, there were circles of white lines mixed in, like white patterns, making the 8 spider lance look bright and eye-catching. However, at this time, Flanders, Liao Gang and Liu Erlong were all surprised that Yun Feng was not dead, and did not notice these. But Jugubo would not let go of such details. He was secretly surprised. Although he didn't know what happened to Yun Feng, as the Poison King, he knew very well that in the poisonous fog, bright colors meant strong toxicity. This guy obviously got something from the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire. It turned out that Yun Feng sank into the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire after eating the 8 tangled mysterious ice grass and the fiery apricot. Soon he was overwhelmed by the strong toxicity and fell into a coma. Although the 2 extreme immortal poisonous herbs are overbearing, they can become treasures absorbed by the human body after being neutralized. Coupled with the promoting effect of the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire, Yun Feng has slowly absorbed the effects contained in them into his body. It is deposited in his meridians and bones. However, the medicinal power contained in these 2 herbs is too huge and it is not something he can absorb in a short time. When Yun Feng woke up, he found that he was floating in the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire. The soul power in his body has returned to its best state. Eating these 2 immortal poisonous herbs did not bring him the effect of improving his soul power. The most direct benefit is that he will never feel pain in the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire again. For Yun Feng now, the cold extreme yin spring is like cold water, and the blazing yang spring is just warm water. Soaking in it will not only not be damaged, but it will be very comfortable. Yun Feng knew that the effects of the 2 herbs in his body needed to rely on the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire to be continuously absorbed by himself. The benefits of taking these 2 immortal poisonous herbs at the same time can be summarized in 4 words. Water and fire are not invaded. Just as Yun Feng was celebrating his success, The violent shock also attracted his attention with the golden light in the sky. The strong light could not even block the fog above the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire, coupled with the strong energy fluctuations. He immediately guessed that something must have happened outside. Such a violent collision of soul power was probably caused by Liu Erlong and Zhuge Bo. Originally, Yun Feng did not want to take action, but he remembered that these three people were still useful to him. Even Liu Erlong looked charming to him, so he did not care to experience the benefits brought to him by the eight-angled mysterious ice grass and the fiery apricot, and he hurriedly released his soul skills and flew over. The color change on the eight-spider lance was obviously caused by the absorption of the ice and fire power contained in the two poisonous herbs. Chapter 233 Stairs. From a distance, Yun Feng had seen the battle situation here clearly. When he rushed over, Zhuge Bo's time and space solidification power was fully displayed, completely locking the time within a radius of thousands of square meters and destroying the Holy Dragon phase. Seeing that Zhuge Bo was about to kill Yao Gang and the other two, Yun Feng shouted urgently and rushed over. Seeing the changes in the eight-spider lance behind Yun Feng, Zhuge Bo's murderous intent became stronger, and he thought to himself, "It's just in time. Killing four at once will save me from making another trip." At this time, he didn't even think about why Yun Feng was able to survive at the yin-yang eye of ice and fire. He just wanted to solve the problem in front of him at once. Just when Zhuge Bo was about to take action with murderous intent, Yun Feng spoke again. He did not speak to Yao Gang, Flanders and Liu Erlong, but looked at Zhuge Bo and said, "Senior Zhuge, aren't you going to do three things for me? The first one is that you can't hurt the people around me at any time in the future." Huh? Zhuge Bo was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect that Yun Feng would actually put forward conditions to him at this time. Yun Feng smiled slightly, and then saluted Yao Gang, Flanders and Liu Erlong. "Dean, I'm sorry to have worried you. In fact, Senior Zhuge had no ill intentions in capturing me. I just checked the characteristics of the toxin contained in my eight-spider lances. Senior Zhuge saw that I have outstanding talent, decided to teach me some knowledge about poison martial spirits." How did you conflict with Senior Zhuge? After hearing Yun Feng's words, not only Liu Erlong and the other two, but even Zhuge Bo was a little stunned. None of them expected that Yun Feng would actually say that. Flanders looked at Yun Feng with some doubts, and he could not see any flaws from the expression on Yun Feng's face. "Is that true?" "But, Senior Zhuge has already killed you," Yun Feng said with a smile. "That was just a joke between Senior Zhuge and you." With Senior Zhuge's status and position, how could he attack a junior like me? Zhuge Bo looked at Yun Feng's back, and all kinds of emotions emerged in his heart. He was willing to flatter anyone. Yun Feng's words actually covered up for him, especially when he heard Yun Feng's last sentence. Zhuge Bo's old face couldn't help but blush. Indeed, it was really ridiculous for him to embarrass a junior like Yun Feng with his status and position. Yun Feng turned and looked at Zhuge Bo, still smiling. "By the way, Senior Zhuge, you wanted to tell me about the characteristics of the snake venom in Zhuge Yan yesterday. I found that there is still a way to remove her snake venom. I will discuss it with you later. What do you think?" Zhuge Bo was shocked when he heard Yun Feng mention Zhuge Yan. He knew that this was Yun Feng telling him that he had found a way to treat the poison in his granddaughter. As Yun Feng joked, Zhuge Bo gradually calmed down. After weighing the pros and cons, the murderous intent in his heart slowly subsided, because he found that if he killed the four people in front of him, it would not only be of no benefit to him, but it would also bring him trouble, let alone the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex family behind Liu Erlong and Yao Gang. Just the background of Yun Feng that they said was the real big trouble that gave him a headache. From Yun Feng's talent and the tone of Yao Gang and the others before, Zhuge Bo naturally guessed that Yao Gang and the others would not deceive him. After all, they all thought Yun Feng was dead at that time, and if he didn't kill them, with Yun Feng's cover-up, this hatred would naturally disappear. If this kid could remove the backlash of the toxins in himself and Yanyan, it would be a good thing. Zhuge Bo was so cunning that he thought about it clearly, and the coldness on his face suddenly subsided. He said naturally, "Okay. We will discuss it later. I didn't expect that your teachers care about you. I just tested their strength, but I almost suffered a loss." Flanders and the other two looked at each other, and they couldn't believe their ears. Before, they could clearly feel the strong murderous intent from Jugubo, but how did this old monster suddenly change? Turned into a test. Jugubo walked to Yun Feng. He raised his hand and rubbed his head affectionately, and said to Flanders and the other two, "Your academy is indeed excellent. To be honest, I want to accept him as my successor. I have never had the habit of explaining to others. Today, for this kid, I will make an exception. Just now I just wanted to test whether you are qualified to be his teacher. You are very good. Although your strength is not top-notch, you are willing to die for your friends. This mind makes me admire it." Jugubo's next few words were not empty words. Although he has always been narrow-minded, he always did things based on his own likes and dislikes, but he still admired the calmness of Liu Erlong and the other two. Flanders looked at Jugubo with a calm face, and suddenly felt a little ridiculous. Then he looked at Jugubo's friendly attitude towards Yun Feng. For a moment, he was not sure what was going on. Yun Feng smiled and said, "Dean, you can go back first. Senior Jugu has profound attainments in the use of poisons, and my soul bone also has the ability of poison. I want to learn from Senior Jugu for a while. Do you think it's okay?" Flanders looked at Yun Feng in doubt. Of course, he knew Jugubo's status among poison soul masters. If he was really willing to teach Yun Feng, it would naturally be a great thing for Yun Feng. But at this time, he still felt a little strange. The change between Jugubo before and after was too big. However, people are afraid of death. Jugubo himself has explained it, and now they can't doubt it anymore. Jugubo smiled calmly and said, "What, are you worried about leaving San with me? Are you afraid that I will snatch your student away? Don't worry, I have already proved that you are qualified to be his teacher, and I won't compete with you for it again. I am very surprised by this child's talent. In at least half a year, or at most a year, he will become your complete disciple. Although I haven't known him for a long time, I really like this kid." Flanders winked at Liu Erlong, bowed slightly to Jugubo, and said, "Poison Buo always keeps his word. Since you said so, then everything that happened just now was just a misunderstanding. On behalf of the three of us, I apologize to you for our previous impulsiveness. It is Yun Feng's luck that he can study with you for a period of time. It's just that this child has followed us for many years, just like our own child. I wonder if we can come to visit him during the time he is learning from you?" Jugubo said calmly, "Of course, but not too often." After hearing these words, the three members of the Golden Iron Triangle felt relieved. Liu Erlong nodded to Jugubo and said, "In that case, I'll trouble you, Senior." Jugubo glanced at Yun Feng beside him and said lightly, "No trouble, not at all." He raised his hand and threw 3 pills into the hands of the 3 members of the Golden Iron Triangle. "Take this medicine and leave. You will not be affected by my poison formation. This medicine can be used repeatedly. Don't forget it when you come again in the future." Flanders smiled and said, "Well, the 3 juniors will take their leave and come to visit you another day." Chapter 234 Test. Jugubo nodded, and did not stop them, letting the 3 of them leave. Before leaving, Liu Erlong looked at Yun Feng meaningfully, but in the end, it was nothing, and she went down the mountain with the help of Flanders. Although the 3 of them had lost a lot of soul power, as long as they were careful, they would have no problem walking out of the Sunset Forest. Looking at the backs of the 3 people leaving, Jugubo took back his hand on Yun Feng's head and said coldly, "Boy, why do you want to cover up for me? Do I need it?" Yun Feng turned his head and looked at Jugubo. "This is our deal. You promised to do 3 things for me. Have you forgotten?" Jugubo snorted. "That's if you can detoxify me and Yen Yen, but I doubt. Are you really only 13 years old? You are simply a monster, and the time is almost up. If you can't pass my test, you will die anyway." Jugubo said this now, but in fact his face was a little bit tense. Yun Feng suddenly smiled. "Old monster, don't you always keep your promises? Just now you seemed to have told my teachers that you would hand me over to them with a complete body." Jugubo glanced at him. "I did, but a corpse can also be a complete body." Yun Feng looked at him in astonishment, but Jugubo had already walked up the mountain. In fact, when Jugubo restrained his murderous intent, he had already decided to let the Golden Triangle and Yun Feng go. When he captured Yun Feng, He didn't expect that there were so many forces behind these people that even he would feel troubled by. Killing Yun Feng would not benefit him at all. It would only bring a lot of trouble. Although he did things according to his preferences, he was not a madman without any scruples. Therefore, Zhuge Bo had decided that even if Yun Feng could not pass his test and could not detoxify him and his granddaughter, he would not kill Yun Feng again. He had said before that he liked Yun Feng a little, and this sentence was not false. Everything Yun Feng showed in this short period of time made Zhuge Bo really have a love for talent. Yu Gang and the other two went down a mountain and were not in a hurry to leave. This mountain is protected by Zhuge Bo's poison formation. After going out, there is a sea of soul beasts. The three of them did not consume any soul power, so they stopped at the foot of the mountain to rest. Flanders lowered his voice and said to Dao Gang, does your Zhuge Bo really want to teach Yun Feng? After all, the feeling of surviving a disaster is still good. As long as you can live, no one wants to die. But now that he calmed down, he clearly felt that there was something wrong with this matter. Yu Gang shook his head and said in a deep voice, there must be something wrong here. But, with Zhuge Bo's identity, if there is no special reason, how could he be so close to Yun Feng? And he seems to be a little afraid of Yun Feng's words. Flanders nodded. However, no matter what, Yun Feng should be safe for the time being, otherwise Zhuge Bo will not let us go, especially since he already knows Yun Feng's background. If he attacks Yun Feng again, he will be asking for trouble. To be able to become a titled Buo, he is naturally a smart man. No one would be willing to bear such a big trouble easily. Yu Gang sighed lightly, and said, now we can only hope for this. Don't tell everyone about this after you go back. Just tell them that Yun Feng is arranged by us to practice in seclusion. One is not to affect the practice of other children. In addition, we have to keep this matter secret for the time being. We can't act rashly. The power of the titled Buo is indeed not something we can deal with. Yurlong's eyes flashed with cold light. What a pity. If we were stronger and had reached the Soul Buo realm and used the martial soul fusion technique, we might have killed that old monster just now. Yu Gang shook his head and said, it's not that easy. Didn't you notice that Zhuge Bo seemed to be cautious when fighting with us before? He didn't use all his strength. Otherwise, I'm afraid we wouldn't have been able to hold on for that long. Flanders nodded. After we go back, we will immediately ask Ning Rong to find her sect. As long as we can find the 7 treasures glazed sect, then no matter what Zhuge Bo's purpose is, it doesn't matter. The soul power of the 3 people had recovered a little at this time. With the pills given by Zhuge Bo in their mouths, they walked towards the outside of the sunset forest. Zhuge Bo returned to the yin-yang eye of ice and fire, and Yun Feng did not fall behind with the help of the 8 spider lance. At this time, the sky was gradually getting brighter. After a night of tossing and turning, Zhuge Bo's old face showed a hint of fatigue. Although his strength was far higher than that of Yu Gang and the other 2, when the golden iron triangle came, he was living a life worse than death every day. The subsequent battles with the golden iron triangle brought him untold pressure. Although his soul power was still full, his physical strength had declined. After all, old age is not based on strength. Zhuge Bo glanced at Yun Feng, watching the changes in the 8 spider lance behind him, and said, boy, did you eat something? Don't blame me for not reminding you. The medicinal properties of the herbs here are much greater than ordinary herbs. Even tonics may be fatal. Yun Feng smiled slightly. Old monster, when did you become so concerned about me? Aren't you eager for me to die? Zhuge Bo's face turned cold. Yes, if you fail my test, you will still die. The time has come. Are you ready? Yun Feng followed the spring, took 3 steps across, stood still, and said calmly, come on. Zhuge Bo looked at him with some doubts. Are you really ready? Yun Feng nodded again. He made a gesture of invitation. Zhuge Bo snorted coldly and flicked the middle finger of his right hand towards Yun Feng. A light green mist came quietly. Zhuge Bo was indeed a master among poison soul masters. It seemed that the poison was simply applied, but the green mist had dispersed in an instant, just covering Yun Feng's body. Yun Feng stood there, looking at him motionlessly. Old monster, this is your first test. Come on for the second one. Your green phosphorus snake venom is so mild, it's useless. Jugubo was stunned for a moment. The scene in front of him was obviously not in line with his research on poisons. Yun Feng didn't take any antidote at all, just stood there chatting and laughing. As the green mist dissipated, there was no change on his body. He didn't look poisoned at all. The green mist released by Jugubo was just a tentative attack, which could be easily removed, but he didn't expect it to be so easily resolved by Yun Feng. Although he had decided not to kill Yun Feng, he always prided himself on his attainments in poison. At this time, he couldn't help but be a little competitive. With a green light flashing in his eyes, he flipped his hand and a green snake appeared in his palm. The second test is to let it bite you. As he said that, he had already thrown the snake towards Yun Feng. The reason why Yun Feng was able to easily block Jugubo's first round of poison mist was actually very simple, because the few steps he took sideways just happened to walk into the protection range of the Xianqiluo's Yanfen land, and Jugubo had no strength to attack. Even if he used his most powerful poison attack, he could not hurt Yun Feng at all. Chapter 235 Old Monster and Senior. From Jugubo's cluelessness, Yun Feng could tell that this poison Luo was not completely familiar with the herbs here. However, Jugubo's second stage test was not so easy to resist. The Xianqiluo immortal product could only block the external poison, but once the poison entered the blood, it would not be effective. Yun Feng turned his wrist, and the green snake had already fallen into his palm. The snake's body was almost transparent, about 5 inches long, with a green light flowing inside, and a pair of red eyes, which looked particularly cute. There were a total of 9 bamboo-like horizontal stripes on the green body. It fell into Yun Feng's palm and swam gently, and he opened his mouth without hesitation and bit it. The green snake's body twisted, and this bite did not move. Although it was an extremely poisonous thing, Yun Feng was extremely tough, and it was obviously not something that its snake teeth could destroy. Yun Feng pinched the snake's 7 inches with 2 fingers, lifted it up, frowned and said, "Old monster, you are so poisonous. This is the best of the bamboo leaf green, the 9-section jade. If you are poisoned by it, you will turn into pus and die in a moment. Although it looks small, it is one of the most poisonous snakes, and its body is harder than steel, and it is difficult to be hurt by a sharp blade." Jugubo was secretly surprised to see Yun Feng easily lift his 9-section jade. The speed of the 9-section jade is extremely fast, but its aggressiveness is extremely strong. If it falls into the hands of a stranger, there is no reason not to bite. But why does this guy look fine? In fact, this 9-section jade is a poisonous thing. It is suppressed by the Xianqiluo immortal product, so its speed is completely restricted. In addition, Yun Feng's body has been strengthened, so naturally he can do nothing. This is my second test for you. Let it bite you and draw blood. Do you dare? The 9-section jade is considered to be extremely poisonous by others, but it is nothing to Jugubo. His martial soul, the green phosphorus snake, has cultivated to the level of the green phosphorus snake king, and can be said to be the ancestor of all snakes. It is easy to dissolve the poison of the 9-section jade. Yun Feng smiled slightly and said, "It is no problem for me to let it bite me, but, Senior Jugu, how about we make a deal? If it bites me and I am fine, you can give me this 9-section jade. How about that?" Jugubo was really speechless. Others were all terrified and extremely alert when facing their own poison, but this guy was not only not afraid, but also asked for it from him. "Didn't you call me an old monster? Why did you call me senior?" Yun Feng smiled and said, "I have something to ask of you." "How about it?" Jugubo said unhappily. "I think you are the real monster." "Well, let it bite you. If it's okay, I'll give it to you." "Okay?" He didn't believe that the teenager in front of him could withstand the poison of the 9-section jade. The 9-section jade was an extremely precious thing. He had full confidence in it. He thought to himself that as long as this kid poisoned it, he would go over and detoxify it, and the 9-section jade would naturally return to its original owner. Yun Feng's face showed a bit of caution. He took a deep breath, and the soul power in his body quietly circulated. He slowly put the 9-section jade on his arm. The 9-section jade bit Yun Feng's hand several times but failed. Instead, it made his teeth rise. Finally, he encountered soft flesh. How could he be polite? He bit it. There was no pain at all when biting the 9-section jade, just a slight numbness and a little itchy, but the tingling sensation spread at an extremely alarming speed. In just a blink of an eye, Yun Feng's bitten arm had turned emerald green. Seeing this, Jugubo couldn't help but smile. "Boy, since you know about 9-section jade, don't you understand its toxicity?" He was about to step forward to help Yun Feng detoxify, but before he finished his sentence, he saw that Yun Feng's arm, which had turned emerald green, had turned back at the same speed. Red and white light appeared under the skin, and the whole arm looked like a precious jade. What Jugubo couldn't understand the most was that the 9-section jade that bit Yun Feng actually turned upside down. It fainted directly in Yun Feng's hand, motionless. Jugubo, a titled Buo, made a move that made Yun Feng smile. He raised his hands and rubbed his eyes. Yun Feng kindly reminded him, "Senior Jugu, you read it right. Have I passed your second round of tests? Also, this 9-section jade is mine now." "This, boy, how did you do it?" Jugubo stared at Yun Feng in amazement. He had been playing with poison all his life, but this was the first time he had seen such a situation. Yun Feng still had a smile on his face, and lovingly stroked the 9-section jade that was unconscious in his hand, saying, "Senior Jugu, you should do the third test on me first." Jugubo's face gradually became solemn. At this time, he had already faintly believed in his heart that the young man in front of him did have the ability to help him and his granddaughter detoxify, but although he said so, deep in his heart he was unwilling to admit that he was inferior to others in poison. But what he didn't know was that Yun Feng didn't know how to use poison at all. The light of the soul ring rose from under his feet, and the 9 soul rings swam up and down around his body, but this time there was no pressure. Looking at the dazzling 9 halos, Yun Feng couldn't help but secretly admire him. He was worthy of being a titled Buo. Even his own aura was under control. The nails on Jugubo's palms slowly grew longer. After a while, they had grown to 3 inches in length, as sharp as cones, with some colorful halos on the green light. "Yun Feng, you have to think clearly. The poison I will use next is something I can't even control. If you regret it now, I can still not kill you and let you try to remove the backlash of the poison for me." Yun Feng looked at Jugubo's hand. His expression became solemn, and he put the 9-section jade in his hand and to his arms. He knew that what Jugubo used at this time was his life-threatening poison, which belonged to the poison of the green phosphorus snake king. With his cultivation, this poison is indeed difficult to resist in his current condition. But Jugubo's words also aroused Yun Feng's inner pride. As a traverser, facing the threat of the opponent's poison, is he going to retreat like this? No, this is impossible. Thinking of this, Yun Feng pondered for a moment, and touched the big flower of Xiankiliuo's Ianpin with his right hand. Then he walked to Jugubo and raised his left arm. "Come on." Jugubo frowned. "Have you really thought it through?" Yun Feng nodded firmly. Jugubo's eyes flashed with cold light, thinking, "The tiger is not powerful. You really think I am a sick cat? Can't I control your generation with the poison I have practiced for so many years?" With a flick of his finger, the fingertip had already pierced into Yun Feng's arm. Almost in an instant, a black gas spread rapidly along the pierced place, and the black line was seen rising up. Yun Feng quickly pressed his right hand on the wound on his left hand, and took a few steps back while he was still able to move. He returned to the protection range of Xiankiliuo's Ianpin, sat cross-legged, and closed his eyes. Silently exercised soul power. Chapter 236 Snake Venom. At this moment, he was not circulating his soul power to force out the poison, especially the poison of the green phosphorus snake king. Even the poison of the 9-section jade was not something that his current level of Xuanchen Gong could solve. The reason why he was circulating his own power was to speed up the flow of blood. For ordinary people, doing this after being poisoned would undoubtedly increase death. But Yun Feng did this to stimulate the medicinal power of the 8-angled mysterious ice grass and the fiery apricot in his body. Just like the ice and fire yin-yang eyes that can make all poisons retreat, the biggest benefit of taking the 8-angled mysterious ice grass and the fiery apricot is to change one's own physique through the 2 extreme medicinal powers of ice and fire. If Yun Feng can completely absorb these 2 drugs, then he will have a body that is immune to all poisons. Of course, he still has a long way to go to achieve this goal. After the 9-section jade bit him before, the 2 herbs took effect in Yun Feng's body, neutralizing and dissolving the toxins. And the reason why the 9-section jade was unconscious was because it swallowed some of Yun Feng's blood containing the medicinal properties of the 2 herbs. Fortunately, this is the neutralized blood. Otherwise, a rare poison like the 9-section jade would explode and die immediately. If Yun Feng could completely absorb the medicinal properties of the 2 herbs in his body, he would certainly not be afraid of Jugubo's green phosphorus snake king poison, but at this time he was far from being able to do this. Therefore, in order to resist the poison released by Jugubo, he had to rely on some external forces. Yun Feng certainly would not joke with his own life. He had a plan when he made the decision. Although the Xianqiluo immortal product could not restrain the toxins entering the body, its nature could completely slow down the toxins and play a certain suppressive role. The hand that Yun Feng touched in the Xianqiluo immortal product with his right hand was contaminated with the pollen in it. After being poisoned, he immediately applied the pollen to his wound. The pollen of the Xianqiluo immortal product has the effect of detoxifying all poisons. Although its own effectiveness is not enough to dissolve the green phosphorus snake king poison, it is enough to weaken it. Coupled with the combined effect of the 8 aniseed mysterious ice grass and the fiery apricot in Yun Feng's body. Yun Feng's body was the battlefield. Several poisons fought desperately. Jugubo quietly observed Yun Feng. Even he himself was not sure that he could remove the green phosphorus snake king poison from himself. Seeing that Yun Feng had already fallen there with a black face, he couldn't help but regret it. He had been famous for many years. Why would he compete with a child? If he died here, it would be a big trouble. When he thought of the forces behind Yun Feng, Jugubo felt very uncomfortable. When Jugubo was struggling in his heart, suddenly, Yun Feng's body in front of him had changed. A faint red light shone from under the skin, followed by white light, and the red and white colors alternated clearly. The black air that was running fast before was forced to stay in the red and white light and could no longer spread. The 8 spider lance was released from behind Yun Feng. In the case of resisting the poison, Yun Feng could no longer control his martial spirit and soul bone. The color of the 8 spider lance was bright, but it was not only bright, the blue silver king in Yun Feng's body was also released. The original blue silver king remained the same, but the color changed. The blue-purple had the same lines as the 8 spider lance. The color of the lines was red and white, which looked dazzling and strange, even a little dazzling. Like a poisonous snake, it spread out from his body and surrounded Yun Feng's body, forming a cage-like shape. The toxin that could not continue to spread was slowly forced out of the body under the power of Yun Feng's Xuan Gong and the medicinal properties of the 2 herbs in his body. What Yun Feng himself didn't know was that he had turned a disaster into a blessing at this time. The medicinal properties of the 8 aniseed mysterious ice grass and the fiery apricot were very strong. Although they were only one kind, they were not the best immortal products around at the yin-yang eye of ice and fire. But the combination of the 2 herbs was definitely the top existence here. If Yun Feng wanted to fully integrate the medicinal properties of these 2 herbs into his body, he would need to reach at least level 70 soul power to do it. But at this time, stimulated by the green phosphorus snake king poison, the 8 aniseed ice grass and the fiery apricots rose up in resistance. This greatly accelerated Yun Feng's absorption rate. When the green phosphorus snake king poison was completely discharged from Yun Feng's body, he had already absorbed more than 30% of the efficacy of the 2 herbs. Of course, this was also closely related to the extreme divine spring of the ice and fire yin-yang eyes where he had soaked for a night. Jugubo looked at Yun Feng with an uncertain expression. After being surprised, he, who was famous for his poison, gradually understood why the boy in front of him could resist his poison. When he was first captured by him, he obviously did not have this ability. Both his martial soul and external soul bones had changed after coming here. Obviously, he had taken some medicine that could resist toxins. Since he discovered the ice and fire yin-yang eyes, Jugubo found that there were many herbs here that he did not recognize. He had also tried to test the medicinal properties of these herbs. But that attempt had also made him taste the pain that he would never forget. If it weren't for his own strong strength, he would have been poisoned to death. From then on, Douluo only took the herbs he knew when he came here. He really didn't want to believe that the teenager in front of him could recognize those herbs that he didn't even know. He also knew that there might be some treasures in these herbs, but he was already a titled Douluo and was unwilling to take risks. Looking at Yun Feng, Douluo could only think of 4 words at this time: blessed by nature. Perhaps, all the abilities that Yun Feng has now are nothing in Douluo's eyes. He can still kill him with a flick of his hand, but Yun Feng's age is his biggest advantage. With his current age and strength, his future is limitless. What a pity, Douluo sighed in his heart. The age difference between his granddaughter and him is really too big. Otherwise, he would do anything to match them up, even if it means making things fait accompli first. But it's not impossible. What if Yun Feng likes it? The red and white light gradually disappeared from Yun Feng's skin, followed by the 8 spider lance of the attached soul bone, and finally the blue-silver king. Yun Feng's complexion gradually returned to normal. Thank you for your mercy, Senior. Yun Feng jumped up from the ground, and a smile reappeared on his face. Although he had removed the poison of the green phosphorus snake king, Yun Feng also knew that the poison Douluo used on him was only a little bit. The strength of the toxicity is proportional to the amount. No matter how strong the poison is, it is not enough to pose a threat if the amount is not enough. Douluo obviously showed mercy. Of course, Douluo didn't know that this was also within Yun Feng's judgment. When Yun Feng saw Douluo willing to give the master 3 antidotes and let them go, he knew that Douluo would not kill him easily again, which was also an important reason for him to take the risk to try to fight against the green phosphorus snake poison. With this first confrontation, his own ability to resist poison has been greatly improved. The next time Douluo wants to poison him with the green phosphorus snake king poison, it will not be so easy. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237, The Method of Deceiving People. Douluo's face was calmed down, and he returned to his usual cold and hard look. He looked at Yun Feng calmly and asked, "What herbs did you eat here that you are not afraid of my green phosphorus snake king poison?" Yun Feng did not hide it and said, "After you brought me here yesterday, I thought about it again and took the star anise mysterious ice grass and the fiery apricot delicate shoe." Star anise mysterious ice grass and the fiery apricot delicate shoe? What are those? Douluo had never heard of these 2 names. Yun Feng nodded. They are 2 poisonous herbs that are grown in the center of the ice spring and the fire spring, respectively, and absorb the essence of extreme yin and extreme yang. After hearing what Yun Feng said, Douluo immediately had some impressions in his mind. Here are the 2 plants that are close to the strange cold and the hot. Can you eat those 2 herbs? Due to the special nature of the star anise mysterious ice grass and the fiery apricot delicate shoe, he still remembered these 2 herbs very clearly. In the eyes of the entire ice and fire yin and yang, these 2 herbs are just one of each. He had tried it before, but with his soul power, he couldn't stay near any poisonous grass for too long. Douluo knew that these 2 herbs contained top-level yin poison and fire poison, extremely overbearing. Because he didn't know the medicinal properties, he never acted rashly. Just because there was only one of each of the 8 aniseed mysterious ice grass and the fiery apricot, Yun Feng was naturally not afraid of Douluo knowing. That's right, these 2 herbs are extremely poisonous. Ordinary people will be frozen or turned into ashes in a moment if they get within 10 meters of them, let alone eating them. However, the so-called yin and yang counteract each other, ice and fire restrain each other. When these 2 extreme herbs are put together, they will neutralize each other and the toxicity will be greatly reduced. And that's the only chance to take them. After taking them, the 2 toxins of ice and fire will complement each other instead of repelling each other, and have the effect of transforming the body. Use some special methods to absorb them, and it will have the effect of being invulnerable to water and fire. Good. a good invulnerable to water and fire. Zhuge Bo looked at Yun Feng and his eyes moved, with a little hesitation in his heart. Although he didn't know that the 8 aniseed ice grass and the fiery apricot could be taken in this way, he knew the domineering nature of these two herbs. Naturally, he understood that Yun Feng had not yet fully absorbed the medicinal properties of these two herbs. If he drank his blood, perhaps, but these two herbs required a special method to absorb. I wonder what it is? Thinking of this, Zhuge Bo asked tentatively, you rely on them to restrain my 3 poisons? Yun Feng smiled indifferently and said, you can say that, old monster. After you brought me here, I know why the toxins in your body did not backfire and kill you. It is precisely because of the effect of the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire. The cold yin spring and the blazing yang spring have strong restraints on any poison. The spring water is even more immune to all poisons. For ordinary people, they can't stand the environment here. Even powerful soul beasts can't. But for you, this place is beneficial and harmless. It is the breath of the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire that restrains the poison in your body. Although practicing here is not enough to remove the toxins in your body, it can at least ensure that you will live to be 100 years old without any problems. Just after hearing what Yun Feng said, Zhuge Bo couldn't help asking, just what? Yun Feng sighed lightly and said, the reason why I ate the fiery apricot and the star anise ice grass has another intention. It is to be able to survive in this place. These two herbs put together are actually equivalent to a type of yin-yang eyes of ice and fire, but the anti-poison effect is not as terrifying as yin-yang eyes of ice and fire. I have come up with 2 ways to remove the poison in your body. One of them is to take these 2 herbs at the same time, and then use your powerful soul power to absorb their medicinal properties. In that case, I am at least 80% sure that I can eliminate the toxins in your body. Zhuge Bo's eyes gradually became cold. But you ate them. Zhuge Bo instantly felt that he was fooled. Is this kid in front of him really looking for death? Provoking again and again. When Yun Feng saw this, he smiled and said, old monster, listen to me first. Since he dared to tell Zhuge Bo these things fearlessly, it was naturally reasonable. 8 tangled mysterious ice grass and fiery apricot are both rare herbs of the immortal grade. Although they are extremely poisonous, their evaluation as immortal grade herbs is beyond doubt. Yes, they can dissolve the poison in your body. But at the same time, your poison skills will also be dissipated at the same time. Are you willing? This, Zhuge Bo was stunned. He had originally planned to take action again. But after hearing what Yun Feng said, he immediately hesitated. Yun Feng looked at the hesitant Zhuge Bo and said, if you don't believe it, how about this? My blood contains the medicinal properties of the 2 herbs. I can get some out for you to try. But don't blame me if your cultivation level drops. Don't try, you monster, Zhuge Bo said hatefully. How do you know so much? Faced with such an inquiry, Yun Feng naturally lied calmly. When I was young, I once got a book, which recorded many rare and exotic things. There is a golden house in the book, and all this knowledge is naturally obtained from the book. You just gave me 2 ways to detoxify. What is the other one? Zhuge Bo asked. After Yun Feng thought for a while, he slowly said, I am only 60% sure that this second method will be successful, but it will not harm your own strength. Of course, your granddaughter's poisoning is not serious. I am 100% sure that I can help her recover. This method is not complicated. The reason why you were attacked by the poison is mainly because of the poison skills you practiced. If you have a weapon martial soul, then it will be much easier. You just need to condense the toxins in your body on your own martial soul, and all problems will be solved. But what you are using now is a beast martial soul, so the toxins will merge with yourself. Although your soul power can mobilize and suppress them, they have already become a part of your body. Therefore, it will cause great damage to the body. You want to keep the deadly poisons in your body without letting them hurt you. You must find a parasite to store the toxins. I think, with your strength, you must have a soul bone on your body. Zhuge Bo is also an expert in poison. After hearing what Yun Feng said, he immediately understood, and his eyes lit up. You mean, let me force the toxins in my body into my soul bones, so that it won't hurt me? Chapter 238 Emperor Treatment. Yun Feng nodded and said, that's the truth. It's the same for your granddaughter. as long as you find a suitable soul bone for her, and let her force the poison into the soul bone when practicing poison skills, then there will be no problem. Like me now, although I also have poison in my body, the poison in my body is in the external soul bone 8 spider lands, so of course I won't have any problems. Jugubo frowned. I have practiced the green phosphorus snake martial spirit for more than 70 years, and my body has already merged with the poison. This poison is not easy to force out. If it's not done well, I'm afraid the backlash will be even more severe. Little monster, you are not teaching me how to commit suicide. It is obvious that Jugubo did not completely trust Yun Feng at this time. Yun Feng said lightly, this is the only feasible way. Of course, I am not asking you to use your soul power directly to force it. You are right. Doing so will not only have no good effect, but will cause a stronger backlash. It must be guided by certain drugs to gradually filter out the toxins in your meridians and bones bit by bit, and concentrate them inside the soul bones. This will be a long process and cannot be completed in a day or two. After all, you are a poisonous person now. That's why I said there's only a 60% chance. But one thing is certain, even if I can't help you integrate all the toxins into the soul bones, at least it can greatly reduce the pain you need to endure now. Are you willing to try it? Jugubo looked at Yun Feng with a restrained light in his eyes. Little monster, I have tried to kill you many times. Are you really willing to help me detoxify? Aren't you afraid that I will kill you after my poison is removed? After hearing what Jugubo said, Yun Feng knew that he had believed in himself, and said calmly, kill? You won't, and you dare not. As for whether you will regret it, I am not sure, but I can tell you clearly that if you kill me, your granddaughter will also die. I can treat you here. When I treat your granddaughter, I will ask someone else to be by her side. After she is cured, there will be no relationship between you and me. What do you think? Jugubo thought for a while and said, okay, little monster, there are not many people I admire. You are one of them, and I will believe you. Everything will be done as you say. I, Jugubo, always keep my words. As long as you cure me and my granddaughter, there will be no problem in agreeing to your 3 conditions, and I will not kill you. But now please eat this first. Although my old life is not worth much, I still want to live a few more years. If you cure me to death, then you will be buried with me. As he spoke, Jugubo opened his mouth and a green light came out of his mouth. It was an emerald green bead. Under Jugubo's control, the green bead slowly drifted towards Yun Feng. Yun Feng opened his right hand and let it fall into his palm. He didn't know what it was, but he still clearly remembered that when Jugubo broke the holy dragon Dharma, he spit out the bead. Yun Feng looked at the thing in front of him and frowned. Spit it out from your mouth and let me eat it. It seems a bit disgusting. Jugubo glanced at him coldly. I'm not afraid to tell you that this is the pill bead condensed by my green phosphorus snake evolving into the snake queen. It can be said that half of my strength is in this bead. If I die, it will directly detonate in your body. Not to mention you, even a titled Buo can't withstand such an explosion from the body. You little monster is very cunning. I have to keep a hand. Yun Feng threw the pill bead directly into his mouth and swallowed it. He felt a hot stream flowing down his throat and a warm feeling in his danshan. Not only did he not feel any discomfort, but the heat spread into his limbs and bones, making him feel indescribably comfortable. Jugubo said calmly, you feel it, right? As long as you don't play tricks, the Danzu will only benefit your cultivation and promote the condensation of your soul power. When you cure me, I will guide it out. Old monster, I also have a condition. Yun Feng knew that Jugubo had not lied to him in this regard. He did not pursue it too much. At least he was not in any danger at the moment. Judging from Jugubo's concern for Juguyan, as long as he did not eliminate the threat of the toxin in Juguyan's body, the old monster in front of him would not be willing to kill him. Jugubo frowned slightly, with a hint of amusement on his face. Little monster, do you know that you are the only one who dares to negotiate with me in the past few decades? Even the emperor of the Tandu Empire was respectful when he saw me. Yun Feng smiled and said, then I am enjoying the treatment of an emperor now, right? Old monster, my conditions are very simple. When I prepare medicine for you, You can't peek from the side. This is where I prepare medicine. You just need to bring me some food and water every day, and then come here to take medicine every night at Heishi, which is 1 hour before you get sick. I don't know how long it will take to cure you. A conservative estimate is that it will take more than half a year. Jugubo nodded. He naturally knew that Yun Feng was afraid that he would kill him after learning the method of detoxification. He didn't know whether he hated or admired this thoughtful young man more. Yun Feng, are you willing to take me as your master? If an ordinary soul master heard Jugubo's words, he would probably kneel down immediately with gratitude, but Yun Feng would not do that. He just glanced at Jugubo and said, "Old monster, I think this title suits you very well. I don't want to change the name. What's more, what do you think you can teach me?" "You, okay, little monster. Let's wait and see." Jugubo suppressed his anger and glared at Yun Feng fiercely. Then he took off into the air and headed up the mountain. After a few rises and falls, there was no figure. As soon as Jugubo left, Yun Feng seemed to have lost all his strength. He fell to the ground with a plop, gasping for breath. At this time, he realized that his back had become cold because of sweat. Although he successfully grasped Jugubo's psychology, he was not completely sure deep in his heart. If this old monster went crazy regardless of everything, he would immediately become a corpse. Looking around at the lush and rare medicinal herbs, Yun Feng smiled. "Jugubo, Jugubo, it seems that I really have to thank you. There is no more perfect place than this." He reached into his arms and took out the 9-section jade from his arms. With a flick of his wrist, he threw it directly to the yin-yang eye of ice and fire. The 9-section jade sucked his blood. Without the assistance of the yin-yang eye of ice and fire, he would die even with its poison. And the fact that he could hide in the yin-yang eye of ice and fire was the secret of Yun Feng's life-saving, and he naturally would not show it in front of Jugubo. Touching his lower abdomen, Yun Feng couldn't help but smile bitterly. Chapter 239, 100 Knowledge Points. He knew that he had no way to fight against the pill bead, not to mention that he couldn't take it out at all. Even if he could take it out, he couldn't do it. The pill bead was connected to Jugubo's heart and blood. No matter what he did, Jugubo would find it at the first time. He was just seeking his own death. He had to try his best to restrain his body's instinct and couldn't digest it. What a pity, what a pity. Yun Feng looked at the herbs around him and sighed in his heart. Every immortal product here is a peerless thing, but as the saying goes, delicious food can't be used too much. Yun Feng knew that if he ate any of the immortal herbs that were very tonic out of greed, it would not only be useless, but he would probably be unlucky immediately. He had to wait until he absorbed as much of the star anise, mysterious ice grass and fiery apricot in his body as possible before considering it. Among the immortal herbs here, there are at least 7 or 8 that can greatly improve his skills. At least they can also improve his current soul power by more than 5 levels, or even more. It doesn't matter, can't I take it if I can't eat it? Yun Feng's eyes showed a hint of smile, and he reached out his hand to touch his waist. After a while, he had placed all kinds of messy things on the ground. Most of these items were small boxes and bottles. Each one was made of different materials: gold, silver, copper, iron, jade. All kinds of boxes and bottles were placed on the ground. Yun Feng had prepared these things long ago, just for this moment. The more precious the herbs, the higher the storage requirements. Some need to be packed with gold and jade, and some need to be stored with silver and iron. If there's a slight mistake, the efficacy will be greatly reduced at best, and the herbs will wither immediately at worst. That's why Yun Feng made so many preparations. Of course, it's not the time to pack the herbs away yet. Yun Feng checked these boxes and put them back into the storage ring. Then he began to carefully identify the various treasures around the yin-yang eye of ice and fire. There are many types of herbs, and some herbs are very similar in appearance but have very different effects. Yun Feng doesn't want to make any mistakes. It's a tragedy to take poison as a tonic. That night, when Jugubo came to the yin-yang eye of ice and fire again to give Yun Feng food and water, he couldn't help but be very angry, because Yun Feng didn't prepare any medicine for treatment. And Yun Feng's reason was also very high-sounding. There was nothing here. How to prepare medicine? In desperation, Douluo had to send him some of the special medicine preparing utensils he used daily. He also bought him a copper-cast cauldron according to Yun Feng's request. In this place, fire is not needed at all. The temperature of the hot Yangquan is more terrifying than any flame. It is almost like magma in front of you. Even if it is just a little, it has the effect of melting gold and iron. In this way, from this day on, Yun Feng lived in the yin-yang eye of ice and fire. As long as Douluo was not there, he would soak his body in the yin-yang eye of ice and fire for cultivation. This not only promotes the operation of Xuan Qigong, but also speeds up the absorption of the medicinal power of the eight-angled black ice grass and the fiery apricot. In the afternoon, it was the time to pretend to make medicine. He didn't know how to make medicine at all, so every time he cut his finger and got some of his own blood, combined with some harmless herbs, and then burned into balls. Yun Feng spent a full 3 months to find out the herbs around the yin-yang eye of ice and fire. He tried almost every poison. In fact, Douluo was still deceived by Yun Feng. The key to his poison was the 2 extreme herbs, the 8 aniseed mysterious ice grass and the fiery apricot. But Yun Feng was not completely deceiving him. If Douluo took these 2 herbs directly, the poison in his body would be eliminated immediately. But with Yun Feng's body as a transit station, the medicinal properties became much milder, and the dosage was small. In a subtle way, it became a therapeutic effect. After Douluo took it for a week, the pain caused by the backlash of the toxin had been significantly reduced. Then, according to Yun Feng's instructions, he slowly merged the toxin into his soul bone. Not only did his strength not weaken, but the bottleneck of level 91 that had not been broken for many years actually showed signs of breaking. You know, after level 90, each level is a huge bottleneck. Douluo has stayed at this level for a full 10 years. How could he not be excited about this sign of breakthrough? The wonders of the antidote made Douluo's attitude towards Yun Feng significantly better. Not only was he more friendly, but he also discussed some knowledge about the use of poisons with Yun Feng every night when he came to take medicine and deliver daily necessities. Yun Feng naturally didn't know, but he was familiar with various herbs. Knowledge is no joke. On the contrary, Yun Feng also learned a lot from Douluo. As Douluo came into contact with Yun Feng, he became more and more shocked. This teenager, who was only in his teens, seemed to have a brain wider than the vast ocean. Sometimes his insights into various poisons even made him feel enlightened. When Yun Feng rejected Douluo's proposal to become his apprentice, Douluo was very angry. But after a period of time, Douluo discovered that Yun Feng was not arrogant. No matter in which aspect, he seemed to be inferior to him. Although his soul power was not as good as his knowledge was not worse than his. After the two discussed with each other, they had a lot of benefits in the use of poisons. The vigilance between them was also quietly fading. Of course, Douluo's danzu was still in Yun Feng's danshan, and Yun Feng had never mentioned this matter. The old and the young seemed like good friends, repeating similar lives every day. The funny thing was that Douluo relied on his knowledge of medicine and prepared the antidote given by Yun Feng after taking it. But although the antidote he prepared was the same as the one used by Yun Feng, it had no effect. How could he know that Yun Feng's antidote also contained the most important medicine? In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. In the past 6 months, Liu Rilong and Flanders came twice. When they saw that the harmony between Yun Feng and Douluo did not seem to be fake. In addition, Yun Feng himself did not have any safety problems, so the two were relieved. They just told Yun Feng that after the study and practice here, he would go directly back to the new Shrek Academy to meet up. Douluo was a titled Buo after all. Although Yun Feng could compete with him in terms of knowledge of using poison, Douluo's experience in martial arts training was far beyond Yun Feng's. Douluo was also grateful for Yun Feng's contribution to his detoxification, and occasionally gave him some pointers, which made Yun Feng's understanding of martial arts more profound. In terms of extensive knowledge, Douluo was not as good as the master, but after all, he had experienced the entire process from the beginning to the titled Buo, and some experiences were not possessed by the master. Therefore, Yun Feng also benefited a lot from him. Chapter 240. Secret learning is successful. In addition, The yin-yang eyes of ice and fire are constantly helping Yun Feng absorb the transformation of his body when he absorbs the eight-angled mysterious ice grass and the fiery apricot, as well as the effect of Jugubo's Danzu. In the past 6 months, Yun Feng's soul power can be said to have made great progress. From the 55th level when he first came, he has risen 3 levels in a row and reached the 58th level. He is about to catch up with Qin Ming. I don't know what kind of expression he has when he knows his current soul power. Little monster, I'm here. Jugubo fell from the sky. Jugubo looked at the place where Yun Feng usually rested. Usually, when he came every night, Yun Feng would say hello, but today there was no sound. Did something happen to him? Jugubo was startled and flew over a few times. When he saw Yun Feng sitting there, he was slightly relieved, although he was reluctant to admit it in his heart. Jugubo no longer had the previous bad feelings towards Yun Feng, and even regarded him as a friend. Jugubo was a loner by nature, and he cultivated a poisonous martial spirit. Usually, no soul master was willing to deal with him. Even if there were, most of them were afraid of him. Although Yun Feng called him an old monster every day, the feeling he had these days made Jugubo feel a special intimacy in his heart. It was a bit like the feeling between an elder and a younger generation, and also a bit like the concern between friends. What's more, the poison in his body still needed Yun Feng's antidote. Yun Feng sat there, staring at the front in a daze, and right in front of him was the copper tripod for refining medicine. At this time, the copper tripod was placed above the blazing yangquan, with the bottom slightly touching the yangquan, and it was baked with the help of the temperature of the yangquan. If it was just an ordinary copper tripod, it would turn into copper water even if it was slightly touched by the blazing yangquan. But the copper tripod that Yun Feng was using now was smeared with a kind of herb on the side of the extremely cold yangquan, so that it could barely withstand the temperature of the yangquan, and he was not afraid of the heat of the yangquan, so he could control it. Jugubo squatted down beside Yun Feng with some curiosity. Little monster, what are you making again? Yun Feng put his index finger to his lips and made a gesture to keep quiet, his eyes still staring at the bronze tripod intently. Jugubo followed Yun Feng's gaze and saw that the gap of the lid on the bronze tripod was constantly emitting a faint purple smoke. He was no longer surprised by this situation. Yun Feng often made some strange poisons that made him admire. However, Yun Feng refused to tell Jugubo about some formulas, which made Jugubo very depressed. The purple smoke from the bronze tripod condensed above the bronze tripod and swayed slightly. Jugubo's nose moved slightly. He was a master of poison and had a strong ability to resist poison, so he was naturally not afraid. But he soon found that the purple smoke had no taste, so he naturally had no way to judge the ingredients in it. But for some reason, looking at the purple smoke rising, he felt a little cold in his heart. As a spirit master who uses poison as his ability, Jugubo knows very well what this feeling is. This is an intuition that belongs to him. He will only have this feeling when there is a poison that can threaten his life. What kind of poison did this little monster make that even he felt threatened? You know, although Yun Feng has made a lot of poisons in the past 6 months, and there are many ingenious medicines that have amazed Jugubo, he has never been in a situation like today that even makes him feel scared. He didn't dare to disturb him at the moment, so he simply sat down beside Yun Feng and waited quietly. Yun Feng's expression was unprecedentedly solemn, always staring at the copper tripod and the purple smoke rising from it. As time went by, the purple smoke on the copper tripod became thinner and thinner, and at the same time, the color was also changing, from purple to white, and then from white to black. It was going through a strange process. During this process, Yun Feng used the blue silver king to open the tripod furnace 3 times and added some medicine into it. Even though his blue silver grass had reached the point where it was invulnerable to water and fire, one of them would wither every time. This made Jugubo's curiosity even stronger. After drinking his tonic, he quietly used his poison skills to test the smell in the smoke. However, no matter how he tried, he still couldn't find out what kind of medicine the poisonous fog in the smoke was made of. Jugubo only vaguely felt that it should be a mixture of multiple toxins that complement each other. Could it be that this kid wants to poison me? Jugubo thought to himself. Otherwise, why would he refine such a poisonous medicine? However, he quickly gave up this idea. Not to mention that the relationship between the two is now both a teacher and a friend. Even if Yun Feng really wanted to poison him, he would not refine it in front of him. The refining process was extremely long. When the sky was bright the next morning, Zhuge Bo was already feeling a little impatient. The black smoke on the bronze tripod finally gradually subsided and slowly returned to the bronze tripod. Success! Yun Feng suddenly jumped up from the ground, and the excitement in his voice was uncontrollably released. At this time, he was really a bit lively and excited like his peers. Little monster, what on earth is this thing of yours? Zhuge Bo couldn't help asking. Yun Feng then let out a long breath, looked at Zhuge Bo, and said mysteriously, "This is a treasure that can take your life. I can guarantee that even if you are hit by it, you will not survive for more than 3 breaths. Of course, it is not a threat to you. You have thick skin and flesh, and it can't enter your body. I will show you my masterpiece later." More than 10 blue silver kings flew out at the same time, pulling the bronze tripod back to the shore. He was not in a hurry, waiting for the bronze tripod to cool down slowly. Yun Feng had already said this, and Zhuge Bo could only wait. After half an hour, when the bronze tripod completely cooled down, Yun Feng walked forward and carefully opened the top cover. Zhuge Bo used his poison skills to protect himself and looked into the bronze tripod. Inside the bronze tripod, there was a very small metal mold in the center. There were traces of drying all around, which should be the residue of the medicine after it was baked. In the mold, there were 3 small needles that were only 1 inch long and completely black. "You worked so hard for a long time, and this is what you got?" Zhuge Bo snorted unhappily. "What's the use of this thing?" Yun Feng smiled and thought to himself that this was the original plot that he watched in his previous life, combined with the knowledge of this life. Yun Feng carefully took out the mold, and then took out a small jade box that he had prepared in advance from the storage soul guide, and poured the 3 needles in the mold into the 3 grooves. "The poison that can kill the titled Buo. Do you think it will work?" Yun Feng's eyes flashed with a burning light. After all, this thing does have some bugs, so Yun Feng also put some thought into it. After many attempts, he actually refined it. Chapter 241 Friends. "This thing can kill a titled Buo? You are not kidding." Zhuge Bo looked unconvinced. "This little thing can't break the defense of a titled Buo at all. What's the use of it being poisonous?" Yun Feng glanced at Zhuge Bo. "Do you know what a hidden weapon is?" A hidden weapon is a weapon used in secret. Just because it can't break the defense in a direct confrontation doesn't mean it can't be done at any time. To use these 3 needles, your soul power must be at least level 40. They have a name, called the King of Hell Post. King of Hell Post? What does it mean? Zhuge Bo was a little confused. Yun Feng looked at the 3 black needles in the jade box and smiled. The word King of Hell means the god of death. You can understand it as an ancient divine language. You say, the god of death has sent you an invitation. What is it for? Of course, it's to let you return to the arms of the god of death. The King of Hell told you to die at 3 o'clock in the morning. Who dares to keep you until 5 o'clock? Bah, you returned to the arms of the god of death. Zhuge Bo knocked Yun Feng on the head in anger. From his expression, Yun Feng could tell that Zhuge Bo did not believe how powerful the Yama sticker in his hand could be. In fact, even Yun Feng did not expect that he could actually refine the Yama sticker. In fact, in order to refine the Yama sticker, Yun Feng used 749 kinds of precious herbs beside the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire. This directly upgraded the Yama sticker, and the toxicity became insoluble. This black needle is not metal at all, but is completely condensed with poison. Once it enters the human body, it will immediately turn into a highly toxic substance and act instantly. Not to mention that there is no antidote at all. Even if there is, there will be no chance to take the antidote. Even if a brave man cuts off his arm, it will definitely be too late. Is it so easy to receive the invitation from the King of Hell? However, the method of shooting this Yama sticker requires a great deal of internal strength. Yun Feng has calculated that if he uses soul power to activate the Yama sticker, he can only activate it twice now, but this is enough. Although Yun Feng had not tried it, he was sure that although he could not kill an opponent who was too strong, as long as the Yan Wang sticker he had issued could penetrate the opponent's skin, Then the opponent would be chased and killed. Carefully putting the jade box into the storage ring, Yun Feng thought to himself, this is next to the yin-yang eye of ice and fire. Otherwise, where can I find so many precious herbs? After collecting his mind, Yun Feng looked at Jugubo. After 6 months of treatment, Jugubo's appearance has changed a lot. His originally green hair has turned into normal gray, except for his eyes. His green color has basically faded. After 6 months of taking medicine, Jugubo no longer has the pain caused by the backlash of the toxin. But after all, the toxin has entered his body for many years, and it is almost impossible to eliminate it all. Jugubo is very satisfied with the current situation. He naturally knows his situation, and he can also be sure that using the same method, there is no problem in removing the poison from his granddaughter. Little monster, give it back to me. Jugubo saw Yun Feng looking at him and stretched out his right hand to gesture to him. Return it to you? Return what to you? Yun Feng asked in confusion. Jugubo said angrily, why, do you want to carry my danzu with you for the rest of your life? I can't bear to part with it. Yun Feng said in surprise, aren't you afraid that I'll poison your medicine? Jugubo snorted, my poison power is now restrained and stored in my soul bone. I'm just poisoning. I'm afraid there is no poison that can kill me. Even if the little needle you used just now can really deal with a titled Buo, it's useless to me. Hurry up and return the danzu to me. Aren't you getting enough benefits? It's only been half a year, and your soul power has reached level 58. I'm afraid you'll absorb the dan qi in my danzu. Yun Feng smiled. He knew that although Jugubo was tough, he actually had no guard against him. In the past 6 months, he has gradually learned a lot about Jugubo. This seemingly ferocious poison Buo is actually not much different from an ordinary old man, although he said it fiercely. But his surname is not very bad. As long as he is not threatened or offended, he will not cause trouble to others. Take it away. To be honest, I am really reluctant to part with it. Yun Feng looked at Jugubo with a smile and opened his arms. Jugubo walked in front of Yun Feng and raised his hands to press Yun Feng's lower abdomen. A burning breath immediately stimulated Yun Feng's danshin to contract. Then, as Jugubo's palm was pulled up, the heat flowed up along his throat, and Yun Feng opened his mouth. The pill bead with green light flew out and fell into Jugubo's palm. Although it seemed like something was missing, Yun Feng still relaxed all over. The trouble that threatened his life for half a year was finally solved. You know, even Yun Feng couldn't do anything with Jugubo's pill bead. Little monster, my poison is almost cured. Recently, I clearly feel that the effect of your medicine is becoming less and less. There are too many toxins in my body. I know this myself. It is impossible to inject all of them into the soul bone. Besides, my body has adapted to the poison to a certain extent. If it is really gone, it may be harmful. I think we should stop here. I will bring your teachers and my granddaughter here. You can leave after you cure Yanyan. You let me go? Yun Feng looked at Jugubo. For some reason, he felt reluctant. Was he reluctant to leave these precious herbs around the yin-yang eye of ice and fire? Perhaps. But it was definitely not all. Jugubo's eyes looked a little lonely. You are still so young. I can't keep you here forever. It's a pity. If you were a few years older, I would marry my beautiful granddaughter to you, and then you would have to call me Grandpa. Yun Feng smiled, and then said directly, it's not impossible. But isn't she talking to you, Tanham from the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex family? Boy, are you provoking me? Although the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex family is strong, it is not much higher than your background. What's more, Yu Tannen is not bad, but he is still a lot worse than you. My background? Yun Feng was stunned for a moment, then smiled and didn't say anything. Seeing this, Jugubo didn't continue the topic, but asked about other things. Boy, tell me about your past. Jugubo pulled Yun Feng to sit down next to the yin-yang eye of ice and fire. Yun Feng nodded. Apart from the biggest secret of crossing to this world, there was nothing to hide about everything he had experienced in this world. At that moment, he started from his childhood, talked about his full soul power, and then talked about how he entered Shrek Academy and everything that happened later. He told it in detail. Listening carefully to Yun Feng's description, Jugubo was very surprised. He never thought that his childhood would be like this. Then where did you learn your poison? You just picked up a book and have your current attainments. I don't believe it. Chapter 242 Giving Gifts. Yun Feng chuckled. If you don't believe me, forget it. This is a secret. I won't tell you. Jugubo snorted. If you don't want to tell me, forget it. Here you go. As he spoke, Jugubo took out a blue leather bag from somewhere and threw it to Yun Feng. The sachet was only the size of 2 palms, the kind that hung on the belt. Although it was much larger than the sachet, it could only fit a hand. What for? Bribing me? Jugubo shook his head. No, this is different from yours. My granddaughter doesn't like to play with these drugs, so it would be a waste to give it to her. This is called the Ruai treasure bag. Although your soul guide is good, it is still inferior to it, because yours contains dead objects, and mine contains living things. Yun Feng was smart. Hearing what Jugubo said, he immediately understood. His lips moved slightly and he blew a thin whistle. A ray of green light came out of Yun Feng's arms and landed in his palm. It was the 9-section jadeite that was only 5 inches long and green. Half a year had passed, and the body of the 9-section jadeite had undergone significant changes. The overall size had not changed, but its small eyes had become more crystal clear, and its entire body was almost transparent. It was green like a jade sculpture, and there were faint red and white air currents flowing in its body. If it just didn't move, it wouldn't look like a living thing, but rather like a perfect work of art. In other words, this little thing can also be placed in it without suffocating. Yun Feng was surprised. The soul guide that could store living things was very different from his storage soul guide. It was not just the 9-section jadeite in his hand that could be placed in it. Even the herbs could be kept fresh in it, so he didn't need to refine all the herbs into pills and carry them with him. You know, there are many herbs that can be taken directly, and the fresher they are, the better the effect. Jugubo looked at Yun Feng's surprised expression and smiled. What did you mean by that expression just now? If you don't want it, take it back. As he spoke, he stretched out his hand and gestured to Yun Feng. Perhaps because he had spent more time with Jugubo, Yun Feng was also influenced by his personality. He unceremoniously hung the Ruai Bai Bao bag on his belt. Really? How could I not remember it? You want something back after giving it away. You are a titled Buo. Jugubo snorted. Anyway, there are only you and me here. What's wrong with being a titled Buo? Titled Buo is also a human being. I promised you that as long as you can cure my poison, I will help you do 3 things. You have already said the first thing, that you cannot hurt the people around you. I gave you this Ruai Bai Bao bag. Does it count as the second thing? Yun Feng looked at Jugubo and blinked, looking at the poisoned Buo in front of him with some innocence. Old monster, it seems like you took the initiative to offer to give it to me just now. Did I ask you for it? Jugubo was immediately furious, but he couldn't do anything with Yun Feng in front of him. Yun Feng smiled slightly, put his hand across his waist, turned his wrist, and handed his palm to Jugubo. Although the Ruai treasure bag cannot be considered one of the conditions, I can't take your things for nothing, so this is a return gift. Jugubo looked at Yun Feng's palm, and a pair of small iron balls lay there quietly. The iron balls were pitch black and there was no feature to be seen. What is this? Poison, or tonic? Jugubo moved his nose, but didn't smell anything, and asked curiously. Yun Feng smiled and said, didn't you see? These are 2 iron balls, not medicine. Old monster, can't you even tell medicine from metal? Jugubo widened his eyes and said, can these 2 things compare to my Ruai Bai Bao bag? Yun Feng nodded and said, why not? They can save your life. Jugubo snorted disdainfully. Little monster, is there anything wrong with your brain? I am a titled Buo, and there are not many people in this world who can defeat me. The few who are there are also guys with abnormal strength. What can these 2 iron balls do to them? Yun Feng said directly. Don't you believe it? Well, I'm reluctant to give it to you. As he said that, he was about to take the iron balls back. A green light flashed, and before Yun Feng could turn his wrist, the 2 iron balls had already fallen into Jugubo's hands. You are so ashamed to take back the things you gave away? Tell me, what is the use of this thing? Jugubo put the 2 iron balls in front of him and looked at them from left to right, but he couldn't see what they were. He picked up a ball with his other hand and was about to test the strength of the iron ball, but Yun Feng stopped him in a hurry. "Do you want to die? Stop pinching." Yun Feng grabbed Zhuge Bo's wrist. Although his strength had no effect on Zhuge Bo still trusted him and quickly loosened his hand. "What are you doing? You are so mysterious. Tell me, what is this thing?" Zhuge Bo asked impatiently. In terms of curiosity, he was no different from ordinary people. Although he looked disdainful on the surface, he was very sure of what Yun Feng had made. This little monster was definitely not an ordinary thing that he could give to him. Yun Feng then said seriously, "This thing is called the Mother and Child Soul-Chasing Life Gallbladder, and it is the most powerful of the hidden weapons I have made so far. You must be careful. Once it is squeezed or hit by too much external force, its power will immediately appear." These things are used together in pairs, and they need to be used with the meteor chasing the moon technique. Perhaps its direct power is not enough to hurt the titled Buo, but the suddenness it produces plus your strength is enough to stop any enemy. The biggest feature of this thing is that the higher the soul power of the user, the stronger the power. What power can these two small things have? Zhuge Bo still didn't believe it. Yun Feng thought for a while and said, "I'll try it for you." As he spoke, he took the two iron gallbladders in Zhuge Bo's hand and tried the weight in his hand. "Look carefully." As he spoke, Yun Feng's body flashed with white light, and he shook his wrist, and the two iron gallbladders flew out at the same time. Although they flew out at the same time, the two iron galls flew out one after another. When the front one was about to fail, the back one suddenly caught up and hit the front one directly. With a bang, a large puff of purple mist spread up and instantly covered an area of more than 10 square meters. Zhuge Bo had a sharp eye. He clearly saw that in the purple mist, countless black filaments flashed by with a dense buzzing sound, and in the blink of an eye, they had disappeared into the mountain wall not far away. Yun Feng smiled and said, "The so-called mother and child refers to the iron gall itself and the attack after it explodes. This purple mist is poisonous and has a strong anesthetic effect. As long as a little bit of it is inhaled, ordinary people will fall asleep for 10 days. Chapter 243 Can I keep you forever? Even a powerful soul master will be affected by it and slow down his speed if he is not careful. And after the two soul-chasing gallbladders collide, the sun inside will explode. Those are hundreds of bone-dissolving divine needles, which are specially designed to break the protective chi. They are extremely poisonous. Once you are stabbed by one, the poison will spread quickly, and wherever it passes, the bones will turn into cotton. Yun Feng sat on a total of 18 this time, that is, 9 pairs. Originally, it was non-toxic because there were no medicinal materials, but after coming here and refining for a period of time, the soul-chasing gallbladders were truly completed. Because there are many kinds of top-grade medicinal materials here, the bone-dissolving divine needles contained in the soul-chasing gallbladders are even better than those he made in his previous life. Zhuge Bo flashed and arrived at the mountain wall where the bone-dissolving divine needles were. When he saw everything clearly in front of him, he couldn't help but take a breath. Countless small black holes appeared on the mountain wall, each of which was several feet deep, and a faint green smoke came out. He could tell the horrible poison just by smelling it. With his back to Yun Feng, Zhuge Bo could not help but admire, "Little monster, I really don't know whether to say you are a genius or a madman. You can do such a thing. I really don't know what's wrong with your head." However, looking at the intensity of the attack, it seems that it is far from enough. Let alone a titled Buo, even a soul master of level 60 or 70 would have enough defense to withstand it. Yun Feng said unhappily, "Old monster, let me ask you, what level am I?" Zhuge Bo turned around. "More than 50, at least less than 60. Yun Feng thought for a moment and said, "I just said that when this thing is used, the greater the soul power, the greater the power. That is to say, the speed of the mother and son soul-chasing gallbladder will be faster under the action of stronger soul power, and the penetrating power of the bone-transforming needle will naturally become stronger after the collision, unless you encounter a titled Buo of pure defense. Otherwise, with your soul power, isn't it enough to hurt the enemy? Even if the opponent uses soul power to block and prevent them from colliding, it will explode immediately after encountering external force. The key to the power of this thing is suddenness. The more sudden it is used, the greater the possibility of destroying the opponent. Jugubo's eyes lit up. At this time, he had completely understood what it Yunfeng meant, and he was immediately overjoyed. It's really good, little monster. Hurry up and bring 100 or 80 to honor you. Yunfeng was speechless for a while. You think these are candy beans, and there are 100 or 80 of them? I only made 2 and gave you an experiment just now. Who told you not to believe it? What, just 2? Jugubo widened his eyes. You are here to piss me off, right? You only did 2. Why do you need to do the experiment? Just tell me clearly, Yunfeng said with a smile. Seeing is believing. If you don't see it with your own eyes, will you believe it? Well, actually I made 4, so I'll give you 2 more. You have to keep them well this time. As he spoke, he raised his hand and waved it, and 2 iron galls flew out and flew towards Jugubo. Jugubo had just seen the power of Yunfeng's soul-chasing and life-taking gallbladders. Although he was not afraid with his strength, he was still shocked. Little monster, do you want to kill me? Jugubo hurriedly urged his own soul power to condense a layer of barrier in front of him. But who knew that the 2 iron galls were shot in a completely different way this time? When they were about to reach Jugubo, they paused in the air and then fell to the ground. Jugubo reached out and grabbed the 2 iron galls. He secretly admired that although the strength of this little monster was far inferior to mine, these little tricks were quite outstanding. Given time, I'm afraid his future achievements will be even better than mine. Although in terms of value, the 2 soul-chasing and life-taking galls are obviously not as valuable as the Ruai treasure bag, but from the perspective of the soul-chasing and life-taking galls being able to save lives, they are more useful to Jugubo than the Ruai treasure bag. Putting away the 2 iron galls, Jugubo put his hands behind his back and faced the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire. Little monster, when are you going to treat my granddaughter's poison injury? Yunfeng was stunned for a moment. Jugubo's words were also equivalent to asking him when he would leave here. People have feelings. Yunfeng has been here even longer than he has been in Shrek Academy. Although Jugubo was full of threats to him at the beginning, the relationship between the 2 of them as both a teacher and a friend has made Yunfeng nostalgic. If it weren't for Jugubo, he would never be able to integrate the understanding of medicine from the 2 worlds into one in such a short time, let alone create the 3 Hades stickers. Old monster, do you want me to leave so much? Yunfeng looked at Jugubo's somewhat lonely back. Jugubo said calmly, can I keep you here forever? The world outside has a wider space. That's where you should go. Without enough experience, how can you ascend to the position of titled Buo in the future? He did not hide his admiration for Yunfeng at all. If it weren't for the huge age difference, perhaps, this should be called mutual appreciation. The air seemed to become a little condensed. Yunfeng and Jugubo stopped talking. Yunfeng did not answer Jugubo's question. He just walked to his side and stood still, looking at the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire in front of him, frowning slightly, thinking quietly. After a while, Yunfeng's frown suddenly relaxed, as if he had figured something out, and looked at Jugubo with confidence. Old monster, you still have to do 2 things for me, right? Jugubo nodded. I always keep my word, as long as it doesn't violate my principles, I will agree. Yunfeng chuckled and said, well, I've already thought of the other 2 things. Thinked? Jugubo frowned, thinking to himself, this brat, what does my promise mean to him? Doesn't he know how important these 3 promises are to him? With his strength as a titled Buo, there are few things in this world that he can't accomplish. Yunfeng nodded and looked at the yin-yang eye of ice and fire. My second condition is that I can take away the herbs I need from here, and you can't stop me. That's it? Jugubo looked at Yunfeng unhappily. Although the medicines around the yin-yang eye of ice and fire are precious, they are not that important to a titled Buo like him who has reached the peak of his strength. He was willing to give Yunfeng the Ruai treasure bag, which tacitly allowed him to take away any herbs here. Yunfeng smiled and said, then do you agree or not? Yes, why wouldn't I agree to such a simple thing? Jugubo said lightly, and at the same time reminded Yunfeng not to easily state the conditions, even if it is to keep it first and use it later. Yunfeng said thoughtfully, this is too simple. The next condition is a bit difficult. I don't know if you can do it. Jugubo said proudly, for me, What can be difficult? Yun Feng asked tentatively. So, you agree? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244 You bastard! I'm going to fight you. Jugubo is not an impulsive young man. How could he, who is so cunning, easily promise anything? Tell me first, what are your conditions? Yun Feng smiled and said, it's actually very simple to say. The teaching staff of Lanba Academy is relatively poor, and we still need someone to keep the place in check. My third condition is to invite you to our Lanba Academy as a senior consultant. No, Jugubo refused flatly before Yun Feng finished speaking. What I fear most in my life is that my freedom is restricted. This is already a matter of principle. I can't agree to you. Well, you little monster. You actually want me to be a thug? Even the royal family of the Tandu Empire has not restricted my ability. Yun Feng said unhappily. Who restricted you? You can come if you want to, and leave if you want to. It's just a name. At least, this way I can see you legitimately. I'm not asking you to be a consultant for life. When I graduate, you can do whatever you want. Who cares? Jugubo was stunned for a moment, looked down at Yun Feng, and Yun Feng was also looking at him. There was even an emotion in his eyes that Jugubo had never seen before, a mixture of 3 parts expectation and 7 parts pleading. Just a title? Jugubo asked with a questioning tone. Yun Feng nodded hurriedly. Of course, do you think anyone would care what a titled buo like you does? Of course. If you are willing to give us some advice when you are free, I have no objection. Jugubo snorted unhappily. You little monster still needs my advice? It's good that you don't come to give me advice. Yun Feng was overjoyed. So, you agree? Jugubo smiled. As long as the teachers in your academy don't kick me out, let's go. Go? Where to? Yun Feng asked in confusion. Jugubo said with a smile, I never procrastinate when doing things. Since you have agreed to be a consultant, I will send you back and take my granddaughter to you for treatment. Yun Feng was in a good mood because he could continue to be with Jugubo. He smiled and said, don't be anxious. Have you forgotten the second condition you promised me? I still need to bring some medicine here. It will take time to sort them out. You have lived here for half a year. Do you still care about these few days? Give me 3 days. We will go back to the academy in 3 days. 3 days later. Little monster. You bastard, I will fight you. Jugubo raised his hand and slapped Yun Feng. Yun Feng hurriedly stepped on the ghost shadow and turned to run. Old monster, you told me to take whatever I wanted, but you didn't tell me how much I could take. Besides, I kept the roots and seeds. They will grow again in a few years. But, old monster, your Ruai Bai Bao bag is really good. It can hold a lot of things. No wonder Jugubo was so angry. He practiced in the cave for the past 3 days, and only came to the yin-yang eye of ice and fire to pick up Yun Feng when the time came. However, when he went down to the yin-yang eye of ice and fire again, he saw the tragic scene of his treasure land being completely looted. How could he not be angry? Looking around, the originally thriving botanical garden had become a mess, as if it had just been plowed, with upturned soil everywhere, and no green at all. Seeing such a scene, how could Jugubo not be angry? Yun Feng said dissatisfiedly, old monster, you promised me to take whatever I wanted, but you didn't say how much I could take. I just chose all of them. Don't worry, you see, I didn't touch the yin-yang eye of ice and fire. With its nourishment, it won't take decades for this place to flourish again. What he didn't say was that even if the immortal products he dug out were in the yin-yang eye of ice and fire, it would take hundreds of years for them to grow again. I'm really pissed off by you, little monster. Jugubo was so angry that he couldn't speak. That was indeed the condition he agreed to. Although these medicinal herbs were not very useful to him, however, these things have been with him for decades. How could he not feel bad? Yun Feng asked tentatively. Let's go. Jugubo glared at him fiercely. Let's go. After saying that, he no longer paid attention to Yun Feng, soared into the air, and headed towards the top of the mountain. Yun Feng directly released his soul skill wings and quickly chased after Jugubo. Although there are many powerful soul beasts in Luoyang Forest, Jugubo has been here for many years, and his aura is already very familiar to all soul beasts. No one dared to approach this old poisonous creature. Yun Feng followed Jugubo out of the forest and did not encounter any attack from soul beasts. In order to avoid attracting attention, Yun Feng retracted his wings after leaving Luoyang Forest and followed Jugubo with only the 8 spider lance. He also knew that he had gone too far. But those high-quality herbs are not available everywhere, and they are of great use in the future. What's more, there is the Ruai by Baonang, a top-grade soul guide that can keep fresh. He couldn't help it for a while, so he came to kill the whole pot. Along the way, Yun Feng didn't dare to anger Jugubo again, and Jugubo ignored him. The two returned to Tandu City in a silent atmosphere. Because most of the poison on his body was integrated into the soul bone, Jugubo's image at this time was no longer as eye-catching as before, so he didn't attract the attention of pedestrians. After entering Tandu City, the old monster stopped and glanced at Yun Feng, who was following behind him with a guilty look on his face. "Little monster, lead the way." Yun Feng approached Jugubo and laughed softly. "Old monster, are you not angry anymore?" Jugubo glared at him. "I have never broken my promise, but you kid, remember this. This is just the first time, it won't happen again." Yun Feng nodded and agreed quickly, laughing in his heart. Even if he wanted to do it again, it would take at least a few decades. The old monster was obviously giving himself a way out. Seeing that Jugubo's anger had subsided a little, Yun Feng hurriedly led the way in front, and the two walked towards Lanba Academy. As they walked, Yun Feng couldn't help but say to Jugubo, "Old monster, it's actually quite suitable for you to come to the academy. Can't you find a place to retire?" "Retirement? You're just looking for a free bodyguard." Jugubo raised his hand and knocked Yun Feng on the head. He was tall and 2 heads taller than Yun Feng, who was about 1.7 meters tall now. Yun Feng felt pain. "If you make my clever brain stupid, who will cure your granddaughter of the poison?" Jugubo seemed to have thought of something, and the cold and solemn expression on his face suddenly softened. He looked up and down at Yun Feng, and a smile gradually appeared at the corner of his mouth. For Yun Feng, he would rather look at Jugubo's stinky face than see him smile, and he couldn't help but shudder in his heart. "Old monster, what are you laughing at?" Chapter 245. The rice has been cooked. Jugubo counted on his fingers. "I have calculated carefully. Actually, my granddaughter is only 7 years older than you, which is not too much. When you were a teen, she was only 25 years old. You are lucky." Yun Feng smiled and said directly, "So should I call you father-in-law in the future?" "I just don't know if your granddaughter is willing." Jugubo smiled and put his arm around Yun Feng's shoulders. "How can she do that? Although she is good at studying poisons, can she dissolve aphrodisiacs?" "I will get her something good like I love a piece of firewood later, and make it a done deal. I don't think she will disobey you." Yun Feng looked at Jugubo's serious expression. He was not afraid even when facing life threats before, but he was shocked at this moment. "Old. Is this really okay? Are you sure your granddaughter won't be angry?" Jugubo said openly. "What are you angry about? I'm just stating a fact. You're not going to refuse, are you? Is my granddaughter not worthy of a little brat like you? Although your little monster is a little cunning, you are also talented. Your future achievements are limitless. I'll be relieved if my granddaughter can follow you." "Wouldn't it be the same if she follows Yutan?" Yutan has the support of the entire sect of the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex family behind him. Yutan is very likely to be the next head of the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex family. What a powerful force that is! How can I compare to it? What's more, maybe your granddaughter and Yutan have already been acquainted, and they are so familiar with each other that they can't be any closer. Jugubo was stunned for a moment, and then he laughed. "No, how can I not understand my granddaughter? She will tell me everything." Yun Feng thought about it and said directly, "Forget it. Drugging or something like that won't work. I'm not that bad yet. Let's develop normally." After hearing this, Jugubo's expression between his eyebrows became more relaxed. "Okay, I really didn't misjudge your character. Seeing that Zhuge Bo seemed to have given up the idea, Yun Feng was relieved. It was okay for him to joke around, but if he really did that kind of thing, he still couldn't get over it. At this time, the two had already arrived at the gate of the academy. Before Zhuge Bo came forward, Yun Feng hurried forward. He didn't dare to let Zhuge Bo walk in front. If he had a conflict with the teacher at the gate, it would be difficult to deal with. It's not that Yun Feng is afraid of trouble, but he just doesn't want to see some people die unnecessarily. Zhuge Bo's temper, who knows when he will flare up. Yun Feng ran forward and said a few words to the guard at the gate, and the guard hurried into the academy. Old monster, let's wait here for a while. Don't forget that you promised me not to hurt anyone around me. Zhuge Bo is a titled Buo. Yun Feng is alone at the yin-yang eye of ice and fire, and at most only he will be in danger. But it is different here. If Zhuge Bo hadn't promised him not to hurt the people around him, he really wouldn't dare to bring the old monster here. Zhuge Bo raised his head and looked at Yun Feng with his nose, without saying a word, just rolled his eyes. After a while, the movement in the academy attracted Yun Feng's attention. Flanders, Yu Gang, Liu Ralong, Dao Wuji, Lu Kaiban, Xiao Xin, Li Yusong. A total of 7 people came quickly from the academy towards the gate. The lineup of these 7 people can be said to be the strongest combination of Blue Tyrant Academy at present. They obviously did not all appear to welcome Yun Feng. The target is naturally the Poison Buo, who has the highest title in the Soul Master world and once defeated the Golden Iron Triangle. These 7 people are at least level 60 Soul Masters, and they are a complete Soul Master combination, plus the martial soul fusion skills of the Golden Iron Triangle. Even if they still couldn't beat Zhuge Bo when they added up, they could still barely stop him. When the academy guard reported that Yun Feng had returned with an old man who looked aloof and arrogant, Flanders, Yu Gang and the others knew that it must be Zhuge Bo who had come. For the sake of caution, they had to do so. Dean. Yun Feng saw Yu Ralong and waved to everyone. When Yu Gang saw Yun Feng coming back, a flash of excitement flashed in his eyes. His ideal was back. He was about to step forward quickly, but was stopped by Flanders. Just this small action showed how cautious everyone was at this time. Yu Gang was undoubtedly the weakest among the group, but he was absolutely indispensable in the martial soul fusion technique of the Golden Iron Triangle. Once he was attacked by Zhuge Bo alone, there would be no possibility of survival, and the remaining 6 people would naturally be unable to stop Zhuge Bo. Zhuge Bo saw Flanders' action, and the corners of his mouth twitched. He tried hard not to show his disdain, and thought to himself, even if there are 7 of you, so what? If I want to do it, it is not impossible to kill all the people in the Tandu Empire. Although Zhuge Bo is not the strongest among the titled Buo, no one can compare to his poison in terms of large-scale killing power. Yun Feng naturally had no scruples and hurriedly strode to greet him. Dear teachers, I'm back. Liu Ralong glanced at Yun Feng with a questioning look. Yun Feng nodded to Liu Ralong, indicating that he was fine. Dean Liu Ralong, I have something to tell you. Liu Ralong's eyes had been on Zhuge Bo, and only turned his eyes back when he heard Yun Feng talking to him. Yun Feng, how is it? He didn't make things difficult for you, did he? Yun Feng shook his head. No, Senior Zhuge is very good to me and taught me a lot about poisons. Dean Liu Ralong, Senior Zhuge is willing to come to our college as a consultant. Do you think it's okay? What? Not only Liu Ralong, but everyone present, including Flanders, exclaimed at the same time, and their eyes became weird at the same time. Everyone looked at each other, speechless for a moment. Who is Zhuge Bo? He is a titled Buo, not to mention the Blue Tyrant Academy in front of them. Even the Tandu Royal Academy, which has the title of the first academy in the Tandu Empire, does not have a titled Buo. Yun Feng looked at the surprised eyes of the crowd and asked tentatively, is it not possible? Liu Ralong swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Are you serious? Yun Feng nodded. Senior Zhuge agreed, but he said he would not stay in the academy forever. He is just an advisor. Liu Ralong and Flanders looked at Yu Gang at the same time. Among the 3, Yu Gang, the wise corner, has always been the one who gives advice. Although there are rifts between them, they still recognize his ability. Yu Gang's stiff face moved. This is a good thing. Although Zhuge Bo has always done things according to his own preferences, This person has a very good reputation and will definitely do what he promised. Ralong, Yu Gang said while winking at Liu Ralong. After seeing this look, Liu Ralong felt sick, but still nodded. She waved her hand and led everyone to greet Jugubo. Senior Jugu, hello. Chapter 246. What did you say? Your soul power has reached level 58? Flanders came to Jugubo first with great enthusiasm, smiling. Although the smile on his shoehorn face looked a little sinister, his eyes showed a sincere look. Jugubo nodded to Flanders as a return of greeting. I promised little monster that I would be your consultant. I wonder if you are willing? Jugubo has never been a person who likes to beat around the bush. With his status, there is no need for him to explain his purpose directly. He agreed to come here because Yun proposed that it was a condition. At the same time, the special friendship between him and Yun also played an important role. Flanders said without hesitation, of course I am willing. It is a great honor for Lanba to have you here. You are more than qualified to be the dean, not to mention the consultant. Jugubo was obviously not impressed by Flanders' enthusiasm. He waved his hand and said, it seems that it is not up to you to decide whether to be the dean or not. Besides, I don't want to be the dean. I don't have that much time to teach students. Besides, my cultivation method is not suitable for most soul masters. Since you have agreed, just find me a quiet place. I have sent Yun Feng back. I am tired. Take me to rest first. Flanders agreed immediately. Although there was no preparation in advance, it was not difficult to deal with such a temporary situation. Senior, then please follow me. As he said, he led the way and led Jugubo into the academy. When Jugubo passed by Yun Feng, his lips moved and he said something to Yun Feng, and then he followed Flanders and left. Of course, he was not really tired, but he always hated trouble and was unwilling to talk to everyone here. Watching Flanders taking Jugubo away, Liu Ralong couldn't help but ask Yun Feng, how did you do it? This old monster actually came to our college. This is incredible. Yun Feng smiled slightly and didn't explain anything. Maybe we are more compatible. I also helped him unintentionally. He said he came to repay my favor. Yu Gang thought for a moment and said seriously, anyway, this is a good thing. Dean, how are you? He was referring to Zhao Wu and others. After being away for half a year, Yun Feng still missed them. Liu Ralong smiled and nodded, saying, they are all good. I didn't tell them what you were doing before. I just said that you were going to practice in seclusion. You came back at the right time. If it was a few more days, we might not be here. Why? Seeing this, Yu Gang also showed his presence. They have made great progress in the past 6 months. Ma Hongjun, Ning Rong and Zhu Zuqing have all broken through level 30 and have their 3rd spirit rings. Oscar's spirit power has also increased by 2 levels, and Zhao Wu has increased by 3 levels. Daimabai is in seclusion, trying to break through the bottleneck of level 40. It's a little more difficult to break through the bottleneck, but it should be almost there. When he passes level 40, we will accompany him to hunt spirit beasts and get his 4th spirit ring. Listening to Yu Gang's words, Yun Feng couldn't help but secretly admire them in his heart. They are worthy of being the protagonists in the original novel. Everyone's strength has improved a lot. Now they have all reached level 30 or above. The combat effectiveness of everyone will undoubtedly be greatly enhanced. Dean, I'll go see them. Yun Feng couldn't wait to show off. I don't know what kind of expression Tang San would have when he saw that he didn't get the fairy grass. Liu Ralong came to Yun Feng with a smile and slowly rubbed Yun Feng's shoulders and said, you just came back. Don't you want to rest first? Yun Feng shook his head. I'm not tired. I still have gifts for them. Then let's go. I'll go with you. Yu Gang, you all go and get busy. Yun Feng looked at Liu Ralong, then at Yu Gang. The two looked normal. On the surface, there was no change, but Yun Feng could feel Liu Ralong's attitude towards Yu Gang. This is completely over. Liu Ralong nodded, without lingering on Yu Gang, and led Yun Feng and the Soul Masters towards the direction of the Academy's divine power. Seeing them gradually walk away, Yu Gang's eyes flashed a hint of obscurity. While walking, Liu Ralong also asked curiously, Yun Feng, what did Jugubo teach you? What's going on between you and him? This question has been in Liu Ralong's mind for a long time. From Yun Feng's performance after their Golden Iron Triangle fought Jugubo, Liu Rulong knew that Zhuge Bo was definitely not just attracted by Yun Feng's qualifications. In the past 6 months, he has been worried about Yun Feng almost all the time. Although she didn't know why, the figure of this young man kept flashing in her heart. Yun Feng thought for a moment and said, Zhuge Bo captured me to vent his anger on Zhuge Yan, but later Zhuge Bo became interested in my 8 spider lands. So he captured me and wanted to study the toxins in my 8 spider lands. What happened later? From Zhuge Bo's tone, it seems that you helped him? Yun Feng nodded and said, I guess so. Zhuge Bo's poison skills have some flaws, and I happened to discover them by accident and made up for his flaws. So he taught me a lot about poison out of gratitude. If not, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to see you alive. Yun Feng didn't explain in too much detail, and said a little half-truthfully, the time he spent with Zhuge Bo not only greatly improved his poison skills. Although Yun Feng didn't need it, it was good to have more knowledge. At least he would be more prepared when facing Yun Feng in the future. I see. Liu Rulong thought more deeply. At the beginning, he told Zhuge Bo about Yun Feng's background. He knew that Zhuge Bo didn't dare to kill Yun Feng. On the contrary, teaching him to use poison had a lot to do with Yun Feng's background. Thinking of this, he felt relieved. Yun Feng, you have been learning poison from Zhuge Bo for a while. Don't fall behind in your soul power training. Your partners are all geniuses. What level is your soul power now? Yun Feng said, level 58. Yeah, Liu Rulong agreed casually, but he quickly reacted. His steps forward paused for a moment, and his face became a little surprised. What did you say? Your soul power is already level 58? Yun Feng said seriously. Yes. Senior Zhuge has a lot of precious plants. Maybe it's because that environment is most suitable for me to practice. So, my soul power has improved very quickly and has reached level 58. Yu Gang showed a smile on his face. It seems that my worry is completely unnecessary. Even when learning poison from Zhuge Bo, your soul power is still improving the fastest among everyone. This way I can rest assured. Chapter 247. Why is a grown man sticking out his tongue to act cute? In less than half a year, the Continental High-Level Soul Master Academy Soul Contest will begin. If the current situation is correct, perhaps, you will have a chance to reach level 60 by then. If that is the case, then it is impossible for you not to become famous. As he was speaking, Liu Rulong had already stopped. In front of him was a bush that was nearly as tall as a person and looked very dense. Liu Rulong smiled slightly and shouted into the bush, Dawu. Pause for a moment. Look who is here. Hearing the word Dawu, Yun Feng's smile froze, and his eyes showed a happy mood. He knew that Liu Rulong came to take him to see Zhao Wu first because he and Zhao Wu had a close relationship. Zhao Wu was also the person he was most anxious to see. As the figure flashed, a white figure was about to flash out of the bush, with a childish pink face and a pair of particularly slender and tight legs, and the small waist that was not even a hand's length but extremely elastic and the scorpion braid that hung to the ground. Wasn't it Zhao Wu? Mom, you're here. Yun Feng was a little confused when Zhao Wu called Liu Rulong mom, but then he thought of something and it made sense. He didn't say much, but Zhao Wu didn't finish her words, because the person she was looking forward to had already appeared in her eyes. Her pupils shrank almost immediately. Yun Feng, without caring about Liu Rulong's presence, Zhao Wu jumped into Yun Feng's arms. Her two slender legs wrapped around Yun Feng's waist habitually, hugging him tightly. Her pink little face was buried in Yun Feng's shoulder socket, and her shoulders twitched violently. Yun Feng could clearly feel Zhao Wu's intense heartbeat. How could he not be excited to see Zhao Wu again? He put his backhand around Zhao Wu's slender waist, and his eyes suddenly turned red. At this time, Zhao Wu was still a little taller than Yun Feng, but she was hanging on Yun Feng, giving people a weird feeling. Liu Rulong knew not to look at them, and turned his eyes to the distance. Zhao Wu, don't cry, I'm back now, aren't I? Yun Feng gently stroked Zhao Wu's back, choking with sobs to comfort her. Wu, brother, don't you want Zhao Wu anymore? Why have you been gone for such a long time? It's no wonder that Zhao Wu was so excited. Since she met Yun Feng, the two had never been apart for too long in the past 6 or 7 years. This time, Yun Feng had been gone for half a year, and no one knew where he was. Douluo didn't know how much she missed him. She had asked Liu Erlong and others about Yun Feng's whereabouts many times. Liu Erlong naturally couldn't tell her that Yun Feng was with Zhuge Bo. Otherwise, what if Douluo impulsively went to Sunset Forest? How could that be? How could I bear to leave you? It's all my fault. I made you worry. The collar of Yun Feng's shoulder was already wet with Douluo's tears. Her long legs were tightly wrapped around Yun Feng's waist, as if she was afraid that Yun Feng would run away again. Douluo raised her head. Her eyes were red, and she pouted her lips and said, "You can't leave me anymore. Even if you want to practice, you must take me with you." "Okay, okay, I promise you." Yun Feng wiped the tears from Douluo's face and comforted her. Douluo's big eyes blinked and tears fell. She hugged Yun Feng's neck with both hands and sobbed, "Brother, do you know how much I miss you? Swear never to leave me." Yun Feng said without hesitation, "I swear, unless I die, I will never leave Douluo." Douluo burst into laughter and leaned on Yun Feng's shoulder again. "Douluo also swears that I will never leave you, even if I die." Liu Erlong on the side shook her head helplessly, thinking to herself that young people nowadays are really open-minded. These two little guys are not even 14 years old. They are really precocious, but she didn't want to destroy the harmony in front of her, so she just waited quietly. Yun Feng was much calmer than Douluo after all, and he patted Douluo's hips gently. "Be good, come down, the dean is still here." Douluo then remembered Liu Erlong's existence, and her pretty face immediately turned red. She untied her long legs wrapped around Yun Feng's waist and fell to the ground, but she still held Yun Feng's arm and refused to let go no matter what. "Dean, let's go find someone else." Liu Erlong looked back at the two of them. Although they were still young, they were also a perfect match. A smile flashed in her eyes, and she nodded, and continued to walk deep into the woods. The simulated environment training is to choose different training locations according to the different spirits of the spirit masters. For example, Douluo's rabbit spirit naturally trains in the bushes that are most suitable for it. Daimabai is in the animal pen, and Oscar is the simplest. As a food-type spirit master, the kitchen is the place that can best lead to his spirit power improvement. As for Ma Hongjun, he is in a room full of stoves. Of course, these are just relatively ordinary simulated environments. If they are under better conditions, the assistance to training will be improved. For example, if Ma Hongjun's training location could be placed in the crater, then the benefits to him would be greater. Of course, the danger would also increase significantly. After a while, Liu Erlong had taken Yun Feng to find everyone except Daimabai. Yun Feng couldn't say anything about this. After all, Liu Erlong didn't know what he was thinking. At this time, everyone was naturally very surprised to see Yun Feng again, and Yun Feng repeated what he said to Liu Erlong. "Yun Feng, what did you say?" "That Zhuge Bo came to the academy with you?" Douluo looked at Yun Feng in surprise, her face slightly pale. Yun Feng naturally knew that Douluo was not afraid of Zhuge Bo's strength and poison, but was afraid of discovering his identity, so he hurriedly comforted her. "Don't worry, Senior Zhuge is still a good person, and he also promised me that I would not hurt anyone in the academy. It will be fine, not to mention that he is now a consultant of our academy." As he spoke, he blinked at Douluo. After seeing Yun Feng like this, Douluo knew what was going on. She was not nervous in an instant. Compared with other people, Oscar chuckled and said, "That's great. With a titled Buo as an advisor, won't our Blue Tyrant Academy be able to dominate the academy world in the future?" Liu Erlong frowned after seeing this scene. "The academy doesn't rely on teachers, but on students like you." Oscar stuck out his tongue. He was very afraid of this female Tyrannosaurus. During the time when Yun Feng disappeared, they were beaten a lot, so naturally, he didn't dare to refute. As for Ning Rong and others, they were disgusted when they saw Oscar sticking out his tongue. What a grown man sticking out his tongue to pretend to be cute. It's simply. Chapter 248 Tang San's Greed. Seeing Yun Feng looking around, Ma Hongjun thought he was looking for Daimabai, so he said directly, "Brother Feng, Dai Boss is in a critical moment of retreat and cultivation, so he didn't come." Yun Feng nodded. "Actually, I brought a gift for you all, which may help him break through the level 40 barrier, but it's a pity that he is not here." "Oh?" As a soul saint, Liu Rulong naturally knew something, so she looked at Yun Feng in surprise. To break through the bottleneck of soul power, it has always been necessary to rely on the soul master's own strength through continuous efforts. Even Yu Zhaogang is as familiar with martial souls as he is. There has never been a shortcut. How could Yun Feng's words not arouse her interest at this time? Yu Rulong is a smart person and quickly realized the meaning of Yun Feng's words. What you want to give them is the medicine you brought back from Jugubo. Yun Feng nodded. But of course there is a difference. You must know that there are still a lot of snow silkworms and so on here. Giving a few away is not a problem at all. As for his women, of course they take the fairy grass. After hearing this, Liu Rulong thought for a while and then said directly, would there be any side effects of using drugs to improve strength? Some soul masters have practiced this way before, but the endings were not very good. You are already gifted. There is no need to take this shortcut. If you force things to happen, it will be bad. Yun Feng said confidently. Dean, don't worry. The things I am going to give you are used according to each person's different characteristics, and there will be no side effects. This is what I learned from Senior Jugu. Yun Feng, Oscar, Ma Hongjun, Ning Rong, and even Zhu Zuqing all showed curiosity in their eyes. They all wanted to know what Yun Feng brought back to them. Yu Rulong thought for a moment before reluctantly nodding and saying, okay, but be careful and don't make any mistakes. Ma Hongjun, go to the animal pen and call Daimabai over. Be careful not to get hurt by the beasts. The fat man's martial spirit is the evil fire phoenix. Although it has no evil fire now, it still has a strong pressure effect on any ordinary beast. So it is best for him to call Daimabai. Yu Rulong also knew that Yun Feng was definitely not a reckless person, otherwise she would not agree easily. Yun Feng thought for a while and said, Dean, we have to find a place where we won't be disturbed, otherwise it will be disturbed by the outside world and affect everyone's absorption of the medicine. Yu Rulong thought for a while and said, then let's go to my previous residence. It's absolutely quiet there, and no one will go there easily. Since recruiting Flanders, the chosen dog-licking worker, to the academy, Yu Rulong found something to do, that is, to humiliate Zhu Zhaogang and order Flanders around. So the wooden houses where she lived before were naturally empty. Not long after, Ma Hongjun had brought Daimabai back. Daimabai hadn't arrived yet, but his voice had already been heard from afar. Yun Feng, you're finally back. If you don't come back, Dawu will probably be worried to death. Daimabai hasn't changed much compared to before. He just looks more stable. He looks a little softer now that he's turned 16. His behavior is a little coquettish. But his aura is also a little restrained. His evil eyes are charming, and his every move has a feminine demeanor. After hearing what Daimabai said, Dawu blushed and couldn't help but spit, but she didn't make any excuses. After seeing Dawu like this, Daimabai didn't continue to talk, and he was still a little afraid of Yun Feng's existence. But after thinking about what Ma Hongjun had said, he couldn't help but say, the fat man said that you brought us a gift and can help me break through the bottleneck. That. Yun Feng saw Daimabai's appearance at this time, and felt a little disgusted. He didn't expect that Yun Feng had created such a thing by mistake, but after thinking about it, Yun Feng said directly, don't worry, everyone has won. Let's go to a quiet place first. Under the leadership of Liu Rulong, everyone walked into the quiet wooden house. The sun shone from the window with the shadow of the tree, and the fresh air came in from the gap. Listening to the crisp bird song and the soft wind, it was hard to imagine that this place was in the capital of the Tandu Empire. Even Yun Feng couldn't help but sigh at Liu Rulong's excellent choice. Yu Rulong said to Yun Feng, let's start, I will protect you. Yun Feng nodded, and under the curious eyes of everyone, he reached into the Ruai Bai Bao bag with his right hand and took out a plant. It was a huge chrysanthemum, which was a gorgeous purple. Strangely, each petal of the chrysanthemum looked furry and particularly cute. The whole chrysanthemum was integrated, but there was no fragrance leaking out. The stamen in the center was more than half a foot higher than the petals, and the top of the stamen shone with a faint golden luster. What is this? Daimabai asked first, and the others were also attracted by the plant that Yun Feng took out. Yun Feng smiled slightly, then he said directly, sorry, I took the wrong one. This is Senior Jugu's. I dare not give it to you carelessly." Then under Yun Feng's gaze, he took it back directly. Then he took out a handful of snow silkworms from it and handed them to Tang San, Daima Bai, Ma Hongjun, Oscar and others. "Yes, these are yours." After Tang San saw the snow silkworms in his hand, his eyes suddenly widened a lot. Of course, he recognized what Yun Feng had taken before. There was a little greed in his eyes. Although the snow silkworms in front of him were also a rare thing, and the appearance was very good, but it is far inferior to the immortal grass. After thinking about it, in order to verify what he thought in his heart, he asked Yun Feng directly, "Yun Feng, what did you just take out?" Seeing Tang San like this, Yun Feng also said directly, "It is called Kirong Tong Shanju, which is a middle-level immortal herb. Eating it can circulate qi in the limbs, circulate blood in the 8 meridians, and can practice the indestructible body of diamond." Daima Bai and others were shocked instantly. "So powerful, indestructible?" Yun Feng smiled and said, "Although the indestructible body of diamond is a bit exaggerated, it still has a good improvement, but it is not mine, but someone else's. But the snow silkworms I gave you are also good things. I have other arrangements for Rong and the others. The gifts I choose for everyone are mainly to strengthen the foundation and nourish the essence, and they are definitely not to force growth." Daima Bai carefully took the snow silkworm handed by Yun Feng and looked at Yun Feng deeply. "Thank you, but how do I eat this?" Yun Feng said, "You can chew it or soak it in water, whatever you like. It should help you break through to level 40. Daima Bai said no more, and immediately walked to the corner to eat the herbs according to Yun Feng's instructions. Over the past period of time, the bottleneck of level 40 has been bothering him. Now that he finally has the opportunity to break through, he has been excited and can't wait to start. Chapter 249 Tang San, Steel. Oscar noticed something and asked in a low voice, "Yun Feng, what is a fairy herb?" Yun Feng smiled and said, "This thing should only exist in heaven. How many times can people hear about it in the world?" Everyone looked at each other, including Zhao Wu. Almost everyone's eyes became hot. Ning Rong giggled and said in a delicate voice, "Yun Feng, you can't be partial." Yun Feng said, "Don't worry. Everyone has a share." Long before coming back, Yun Feng had already thought of the most suitable herbs for everyone. Although the number of fairy products is limited, there are still some for his woman to take. As for Tang San and others, are they worthy? No. As for these so-called teachers, Yun Feng is not unwilling to give them. It's just that the younger the age of these fairy herbs, the better the absorption effect. Otherwise, it will cause the loss of medicinal effects. In order to avoid waste, Yun Feng didn't give them. Tang San was obviously still a little hesitant at this time. He wanted to speak several times, but in the end he didn't say it. It's not because he was afraid of making Yun Feng embarrassed, but because he thought that if he said it out loud, what would happen to others? Moreover, the fairy grass that he had seen before was more suitable for Daima Bai, who had a beast spirit. Thinking of this, Tang San said nothing, but took a serious look at Yun Feng's treasure bag. He already had an idea in his mind. At that time, as long as he could steal the things in Yun Feng's hand, wouldn't the fairy grass be his? Yun Feng, who noticed the change in Tang San's expression, also smiled and said nothing. At this time, Ning Rong also jumped out directly, looking at Yun Feng and said coquettishly, "Yun Feng, what did you give me?" Before Yun Feng could speak, Ning Rong had already run up and grabbed his arm, which made Zhao Wu and Zhu Zuqing frown behind him, but they didn't know what to say. Yun Feng saw the three people like this, and smiled, then stroked Ning Rong's head and said, "Yours is still in the hands of Senior Jugu, and I will give it to you later." After hearing what Yun Feng said, the three women also nodded, without making trouble. Night. After everyone left, Yun Feng smiled and reached into the Ruai treasure bag. A golden light flashed, and a strange fairy grass appeared. This is a very strange fairy grass. The roots and leaves below are all vine curtains, finely combed, but the top is a golden tulip. The rich tulip gives people a sense of magnificence. Rong, Zuqing, Ziou, come with me. After hearing this, the three women nodded in their hearts, although they were confused. After all, Yun Feng promised them during the day, and the snow silkworms given to Tang San and others during the day also allowed them to upgrade 1 level each, and there were no side effects. Naturally, they were also envious. Looking at the looks of the women, Yun Feng asked seriously, "Can I trust you?" Seeing Yun Feng's serious tone, the 3 women instantly tasted the meaning of Yun Feng's words. Ziou, Zhuzuking and Ning Rong did not hesitate at all and nodded directly. Living together for so long, they naturally understood Yun Feng, and Yun Feng had nothing to say to them. Seeing the determination in his eyes, Yun Feng also said, "You can't tell anyone about what happens next, including your parents." At this time, Dao Wu and Zhuzuking looked at Ning Rong. Ning Rong also nodded. "Don't worry, Yun Feng, I won't tell." Yun Feng then took out the Bai Bao Ruai bag, reached in, and fumbled around. "Your martial soul, the 7 treasures glazed tower, is very special. I considered it again and again before choosing this immortal herb for you. This thing is called Cultivation tulip. It is elegant and noble. Taking it can absorb the essence of heaven and earth and the glory of the sun and moon. Your 7 treasures glazed tower itself belongs to the treasure type martial soul. With the help of this Cultivation tulip, it can achieve a complementary effect. It can also make your martial soul evolve into a 9 treasures glazed tower. This flower cannot be swallowed. You need to suck the stamens lightly, slowly absorb the essence into your body, and then practice soul power slowly, so that the medicinal effect spreads throughout your limbs and bones." Ning Rong took the Cultivation tulip, and a little trance flashed in her eyes. During the day, she naturally heard what immortal products meant. But after hearing that it can make her martial soul evolve, her breathing suddenly became rapid. Looking at Yun Feng's figure, she said tremblingly, "Is this true?" Seeing Yun Feng nodded solemnly, Ning Rong's eyes suddenly turned red. She went forward and hugged Yun Feng's waist, then stood on tiptoe and kissed Yun Feng directly on the lips. After a while, she slowly pulled away. "Yun Feng, I love you so much. If it's true, I will chase you. You are my man." After saying this, Ning Rong noticed the gazes of Dao Wu and Zhuzuking, and her face couldn't help but turn red. Then she ran to the side and began to absorb it. Seeing that only Dao Wu and Zhuzuking were left, Dao Wu stood there calmly and was not in a hurry at all. Yun Feng gave others such good fairy grass, how could he treat her badly? Zhuzuking was quiet by nature and very shy, although she was also full of expectations in her heart. She was embarrassed to ask like Ning Rong. Yun Feng walked in front of Zhuzuking. "Zuking, the immortal grass I chose for you is the easiest to absorb and transform among all the immortal grasses, and its efficacy is even better than theirs, which is an all-round improvement. However, if you want to eat this immortal grass, you must pay a certain price. I hope you are mentally prepared." If this was said by someone else, Zhuzuking would definitely think that the other party had ulterior motives, but the words came from Yun Feng's mouth. She did not feel uncomfortable at all. They had been together for so long. Although Zhuzuking rarely spoke, how could she not know what kind of person Yun Feng was? What's more, Yun Feng was her teacher. At that moment, she nodded immediately and said softly, "Thank you, Brother Feng." This was the first time Zhuzuking called Yun Feng Brother Feng. Yun Feng couldn't help but smile slightly and took out another immortal grass from the Ruai treasure bag. It was an ordinary-looking white flower, the size of a palm, shaped like a peony, without grass leaves, and a large stone connected to the rhizome. The stone was black all over. From the way Yun Feng was holding it, it could be seen that its weight was extremely amazing. On the white flower, there were a few pieces of startling red as blood, which looked a bit thrilling. Yun Feng said seriously, "This herb is called Acacia Heartbroken Red, and it is a divine treasure among the immortal herbs. It also has a legendary story." Then Yun Feng simply told this story. After hearing this story, Zhuzuking and Dao Wu couldn't help but show a trace of sadness in their eyes. The eyes of looking at Yun Feng changed, especially Zhuzuking. The friendship in her eyes was about to overflow, but then she thought of Dai Mabai, and her eyes became dark again. Chapter 250 Zhuzuking's Loss. But this story still made the two girls feel swayed and unable to control themselves. Yun Feng said solemnly, "Flowers are not ordinary. They choose their masters. When picking them, you must think of your beloved in your heart. Be sincere, and spit out a mouthful of blood on the petals. If you are a little bit indecisive, even if you spit out blood and die, you can't pick the flower. After the flower is taken, as long as it is with this owner, it will never wither. The stone under the flower is called wuju. If it is forcibly destroyed, this plant of acacia heartbroken red will also lose all its medicinal power. Eating this herb has the merit of being immortal with the heaven and the earth. I conservatively estimate that it can at least increase the soul power by 10 levels, and it will also have a comprehensive transformation of the body. Ju King, so I brought it to you, hoping that you can become this destined person. These words that were almost like a confession instantly broke Juzukin's defense. Juzukin stared blankly at the moving bloody peony acacia heartbroken red in front of her. She nodded gently, looking at Yun Feng in front of her, her eyes full of seriousness. Let me try. The soul power in her body circulated, stimulating the blood and chi. Juzukin opened her cherry lips and spat out a mouthful of blood on the petals. At the moment she spat out blood, Yun Feng's figure filled her mind, but for some reason, after thinking of her engagement, she felt extremely guilty. As her mind moved slightly, her mind could not help but wonder. Blood fell on the petals, and the acacia heartbroken red trembled slightly. Yun Feng, Douluo, and Juzukin all looked at the flower and waited quietly. However, Yun Feng was soon disappointed. The acacia heartbroken red swaying gradually stopped, and there was no sign of falling. Juzukin said sadly, I'm sorry, third brother, I was distracted and failed to pick the flower. Yun Feng sighed secretly, and also knew Juzukin's thoughts. It was not that she didn't like herself, but she was just too worried now, so she shook her head helplessly. Zuking, you don't have to do this. I have prepared other herbs for you as backup. Wait a moment. As he spoke, Yun Feng held the acacia heartbroken red and put it aside, wanting to take out the backup herbs for Juzuking. Suddenly, there was a light sound of puff. When Yun Feng turned his head, he saw a mouthful of blood falling on the acacia heartbroken red. Before he could react, the acacia heartbroken red did not even shake at all this time, but it had quietly left the wuju stone and fell down, landing in a slender jade hand. Douluo wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. A smile appeared on her pretty face, and she looked at the moving flower in her hand with a dazed look. I didn't expect that I was the one with the destiny. Yun Feng's heart was shocked, and Juzukin beside him was also shocked. None of them thought that the final owner of the acacia heartbroken red would become Zhao. Although Yun Feng could not deny Zhao's feelings, he was still a little happy after seeing the current situation. At that moment before, Yun Feng's eyes were on the Bai Bao Ruai bag, but Juzukin could see it clearly. When Zhao was spitting blood, her eyes never left Yun Feng for a moment. Juzukin would never forget that focused look. All along, she had seen Yun Feng's kindness to Zhao, and only now did she really understand how important Yun Feng was in Zhao's heart. Juzukin saw clearly that Zhao's eyes were so pure when she looked at Yun Feng. The feelings between them were absolutely the purest and most sincere, without any flaws. When she thought of this, Juzukin's eyes dimmed a little, and the acacia heartbroken red became the best witness. Yun Feng stared at Zhao blankly, unable to speak for a long time. Zhao lowered her head and stroked the petals with her fingertips. Brother, that story must be true, right? Yun Feng smiled, and then said directly, I don't know either. Eat it, it will give you the best help. Zhao shook her head. No, how can anyone bear to take such a magical herb? Didn't you say that once it recognizes its master, it will never wither? I want it to stay with me forever, and I will love and pity it. But, Yun Feng was about to say something hesitantly, but was interrupted by Zhao. Don't worry, brother, I won't be left behind by everyone, and I will definitely work hard to practice. Zhao naturally understood what Yun Feng was worried about. Although her strength was further improved by not eating this acacia heartbroken red, she was very satisfied at this moment. Just as Juzukin thought, she had never known what her feelings for Yun Feng were. At this moment, this acacia heartbroken red had already told her. It was completely confirmed. For her, nothing was more important than this. Yun Feng never forced Zhao to do anything. He raised his hand and stroked her head, smiling and said, then you should protect it well, and it will always protect you. But even if you don't take this fairy grass, I have others. When Yun Feng finished speaking, Douluo and Zhuzuqin were dumbfounded. When he gave it to Tang San and others before, Feng didn't take out a single one, but now, thinking of this, the two girls felt sweet in their hearts. Who doesn't want to be treated differently? Reaching into the Bai Bao Ruai bag, Feng took out the fairy grass. It was a white and brilliant flower, which looked spotless like a white lotus. Feng handed it to Zhuzuqin and said with a smile, "This flower is called Narcissus Jade Muscle and Bone, which can moisten the tendons and strengthen the bones, and open the 7 meridians and 8 vessels." Zhuzuqin, this fairy grass is also suitable for you. Just take it. Perhaps because she failed to get the approval of Acacia Heartbroken Red, Zhuzuqin was a little sad, and nodded gently. Okay, when taking it, just eat the petals, and finally suck the stamens, and you can absorb its effects. It also needs to be urged by soul power. Zhuzuqin, remember, you must be calm to absorb its essence. Thank you, Brother Feng. Zhuzuqin took the Narcissus Jade Muscle and Bone, walked to a separate corner and sat down alone. Douluo was still playing with the Acacia Heartbroken Red in her hand, and Feng couldn't help asking again, "Douluo, are you really not going to take it? With it, your strength will be greatly improved." Douluo shook her head gently. "Brother, I won't eat it, unless one day." She didn't say anything else, but her eyes fell on Feng's face. Feng saw a bit of strangeness in Douluo's big eyes. For some reason, Feng didn't dare to look directly at this light. Feng fumbled in the Ruai treasure bag, hesitated for a moment, then took out a jade box and handed it directly to Douluo. After Douluo took the result, she chose to open it directly. When the jade box was opened, the whole room was filled with a strange fragrance. The rich orchid fragrance made people feel refreshed and refreshed. The refreshing fragrance of the flowers made everyone feel refreshed and couldn't help but practice breathing. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.